The universe operates on principles we understand: physics, chemistry, the fundamental laws of cause and effect. But what happens when something defies every sensor, every theory, every rational explanation? Deep Space Nine had seen its share of impossible phenomena. The Bajoran wormhole alone redefined stable wormhole theory and introduced the Federation to beings that existed outside linear time. Yet nothing in Commander Sisko's experience prepared him for what emerged from the Celestial Temple on Stardate 51247.3. The alarm klaxons screamed across ops as energy readings spiked to levels that threatened to destabilize the station's power grid. Major Kira Nerys gripped her console, watching the wormhole's event horizon expand beyond all recorded parameters. The familiar blue and white vortex now pulsed with cascades of orange and violet. Colors that had never appeared in 7 years of observation. "Report," Sisko commanded, rising from his chair. "The wormhole is opening, but the energy signature is completely wrong," Lieutenant Commander Jadzia Dax said, her fingers dancing across her science station. "I'm reading subspace fractures, temporal displacement fields, and something else. Benjamin, these quantum readings don't match any known phenomenon in our universe." Chief O'Brien's hands moved frantically over the engineering console. "Whatever's happening, it's pulling power from our reactors. If this continues for another 30 seconds, we'll have a cascade failure across all primary systems." Constable Odo stood near the security console, his liquid features hardened into an expression of deep concern. "I'm detecting a discrete object within the energy field. It's roughly humanoid." "On screen," Sisko ordered. The view screen shifted to show the wormhole's mouth. Through the chaotic energy patterns, a dark shape tumbled through the vortex. It was indeed humanoid, a single person, impossibly suspended in the maelstrom that should have torn apart any biological organism at the molecular level. "Transporter lock," Sisko said immediately. "Get whoever that is out of there before." "The energy interference is too severe," O'Brien interrupted. "I can't get a clean lock." The figure continued to fall through the wormhole's collapsing event horizon. Just as the vortex began to contract, the person passed through the threshold and into normal space. Without the wormhole's gravimetric field to suspend them, simple physics took over. They were falling toward the station at terminal velocity. "Tractor beam," Kira shouted. "Already on it," O'Brien replied. The beam caught the falling figure less than 50 meters from impact with the station's lower docking pylon. The chief guided them carefully toward the promenade level. "Got them." Bringing them to the infirmary-level airlocks. Sisko tapped his comm badge. Sisko to Dr. Bashir. "Prepare for incoming, we have an unidentified humanoid who just came through the wormhole. Unknown condition." "Understood, Commander." "Standing by." Odo was already moving toward the turbolift. "I'll meet our guest personally." "Major, you're with him," Sisko said. "Full security protocols. We don't know what we're dealing with." As Odo and Kira departed, Dax continued her analysis. "Benjamin, these residual energy readings are fascinating. Whatever brought this person here wasn't natural wormhole activity. This was a dimensional breach, a tear between parallel universes or alternate realities. The Prophet sent us a warning?" Sisko asked, though he already suspected the answer. "No." Dax looked up from her console, her symbiont's 3 centuries of experience evident in her concerned expression. "I don't think the Prophets had anything to do with this. This was something else entirely. And whoever just arrived, they're not from our universe." In the infirmary, Dr. Julian Bashir ran his medical tricorder over the unconscious man on the bio-bed. The patient was human, or at least appeared to be. Dark skin, bald head, and a distinctive eye patch over his left eye. He wore strange clothing, a long black coat made from an unfamiliar synthetic material, combat boots with unusual treading, and tactical pants with numerous pockets. Most intriguing was the small device on his belt. A communications unit of some kind, though its technology was completely foreign to Federation science. Vital signs are stable, Bashir reported as Odo and Kira entered. He's suffered minor subspace radiation exposure, but nothing my treatments can't handle. Remarkably, he seems almost resistant to the effects. His cellular structure shows unusual resilience. Any identification? Odo asked. Nothing I recognize. No comm badge, no Starfleet insignia, no indication of which species or government he represents. Bashir held up a small flat device he'd removed from the man's coat. I found this. It appears to be some kind of data storage unit, but the interface is incompatible with our systems. Kira studied the unconscious stranger carefully. He looks human, but that doesn't tell us much. Could be from the Alpha Quadrant, could be from anywhere. Or anywhen, Odo added darkly. We've dealt with temporal incursions before. The man's single eye snapped open. In one fluid motion, he sat up, assessed his surroundings, catalogued every person in the room, identified exits and potential weapons, and made a tactical decision, all before Bashir could even react. His hand went to his hip, found his weapon missing, and shifted to a defensive posture. Where am I? His voice was gravelly, authoritative, and carried the unmistakable weight of command. Who are you people? I'm Major Kira Nerys, Bajoran Militia. This is Constable Odo, Chief of Security, and Dr. Julian Bashir. You're aboard Deep Space Nine, a Federation starbase in the Bajoran system. Kira kept her voice calm but firm. You came through the Bajoran wormhole approximately 20 minutes ago. Do you remember what happened? The man's eye narrowed. Wormhole. Federation. He processed the information with visible speed. Not home then. It wasn't a question. Where is home? Odo asked, stepping closer. His security instincts were fully engaged. This man had the bearing of someone accustomed to violence and deception, someone very much like himself. Classified, the man said automatically. Then, reassessing his situation, I need to speak with whoever's in charge of this facility. Immediately. That would be Commander Benjamin Sisko, Bashir said. But first, I need to complete my medical examination. You've been exposed to. I'm fine, Doctor. The man stood, his movements precise and controlled despite having been unconscious moments before. He was shorter than average, but his presence filled the room. Your scans already told you that. My name is Nick Fury. Until recently, I was director of an organization called S.H.I.E.L.D, Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement and Logistics Division. We're tasked with protecting Earth from threats it's not prepared to handle. Earth? Kira exchanged glances with Odo. You're from Earth. An Earth, Fury corrected. From what I'm gathering, not your Earth. His eye took in the medical equipment, the tricorder in Bashir's hand, the station visible through the infirmary windows. Different tech level. Different political situation. You said, Federation, I'm guessing that's some kind of unified planetary government. The United Federation of Planets, Odo said carefully. An alliance of over 150 member worlds. Earth is the founding member. Fury absorbed this information without visible reaction, but his mind was clearly processing implications at remarkable speed. Wormhole. Dimensional breach. Yeah, that tracks. He looked directly at Odo. You're not human. Shapeshifter. Odo stiffened slightly. I am a changeling. How did you? Your body language is controlled, but your features are too perfect. Nobody's face is that symmetrical unless they're wearing a mask or they built it from scratch. Fury turned to Kira. You're humanoid but not human, different nose structure, different cranial ridges. Military bearing, defensive posture, protective of your station and your people. Then to Bashir. Human, but enhanced. Genetic augmentation, if I had to guess. You move too precisely, react too quickly. Bashir's eyes widened slightly. His augment status was classified information known only to the senior staff. Fury caught the reaction. Relax, document. Where I come from, enhancement is pretty common. I'm not judging. I think, Odo said slowly, you should meet Commander Sisko now. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Trek universe, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. Live long and prosper. 10 minutes later, Nick Fury stood in Commander Sisko's office, looking out at the Bajoran wormhole through the window. Sisko sat behind his desk, with Dax standing nearby. Odo had taken up his customary position near the door, observing, analyzing, suspecting. The Tesseract, Fury said without turning around. We were studying it, an artifact of immense power capable of opening doorways through space. We thought we understood it. We were wrong. He finally turned to face Sisko. There was an energy surge. Readings went off the charts. Next thing I know, I'm falling through what you're calling a wormhole, and I'm here. Different universe, apparently. Hell of a day. Sisko studied the man before him. Fury carried himself with the confidence of a career officer, but there was something more. A hardness forged through battle Sisko could only imagine. This Tesseract, is it a weapon? It can be, Fury admitted. It's also a power source, a transportation device, and about a dozen other things we never figured out. But that's not your problem, Commander. Your problem is that I'm here, and I have no way to get back. That may not be entirely true, Dax interjected. Commander, if Mr. Fury's artifact created a dimensional breach strong enough to punch through into our universe, there might be residual energy signatures we can track. Given time, we might be able to replicate the conditions and send him home. How much time? Fury asked. Dax hesitated. Weeks. Possibly months. This kind of dimensional science is theoretical at best. Fury's jaw tightened fractionally, the only sign of frustration he allowed himself to show. Then I'm stuck here for the foreseeable future. Not necessarily stuck, Sisko said. Deep Space Nine is a complicated place, Mr. Fury. We're a Federation starbase, but we're also a Bajoran station. We're positioned at the mouth of the only stable wormhole known to exist, which gives us access to the Gamma Quadrant and brings us into contact with hundreds of species. And, he paused, weighing how much to reveal. We're currently at war. War. Fury's attention sharpened. With who? The Dominion. A political entity from the Gamma Quadrant seeking to conquer the Alpha Quadrant. They're led by beings called the Founders. Shapeshifters like Constable Odo here, but with an ideology of genetic superiority and absolute control. Fury glanced at Odo with new understanding. That complicates things. Indeed, Odo said stiffly. The Dominion commands the Jem'Hadar, genetically engineered soldiers bred for combat and loyal unto death, and the Vorta, cloned administrators who serve as the Founders' diplomatic face, Sisko continued. We're fighting alongside the Klingon Empire and, recently, the Romulan Star Empire. But the war isn't going well. The Dominion has already conquered significant territory, and casualties are mounting on all sides. Fury processed this information with the tactical assessment of a career strategist. You're telling me this why? You barely know me. Because you have skills we might need, Sisko said frankly. In the 20 minutes since you arrived, you've already demonstrated tactical awareness, intelligence analysis capability, and the ability to read people with remarkable accuracy. Those are valuable assets in wartime. You want to recruit me? It wasn't a question. I want to give you a choice, Sisko corrected. You can remain aboard DS-9 as a guest while Lieutenant Dax works on getting you home. You'll be comfortable, safe, and uninvolved. Or you can help us. Use your expertise. Make a difference while you're here. Fury was quiet for a long moment, his eye moving between Sisko, Dax, and Odo. Finally, he spoke. I've spent my entire career protecting people from threats they don't see coming. From where I'm standing, Commander, you've got a pretty significant threat on your doorstep. He stepped forward, his decision made. I'm in. But I work my way, no command structure, no regulations slowing me down when I need to move fast. I'll share what I know, I'll help where I can, but I don't take orders well. I don't need you to take orders, Sisko said, standing and extending his hand. I need you to tell me the truth. Can you do that? Fury shook his hand, a grim smile crossing his face. Commander, in my experience, the truth is the most dangerous weapon there is. You sure you want it? In war, Sisko said, I'll take every weapon I can get. As Fury left the office with Odo to arrange temporary quarters, Dax moved beside Sisko at the window. Benjamin, are you sure about this? We know almost nothing about him. I know enough, Sisko said quietly. He's a soldier who's been fighting in shadows. He's smart, paranoid, and he sees angles we might miss. In this war, Dax, that might be exactly what we need. Or exactly what we'll regret, she replied. Sisko didn't answer. He simply watched the wormhole, wondering what other impossibilities it might deliver, and whether Nick Fury's arrival was coincidence or something far more dangerous. In the shadows of Deep Space Nine's lower corridors, a figure in nondescript clothing watched Fury and Odo pass. The figure's face was unremarkable, forgettable, precisely as intended. He tapped a concealed communicator. Sloan to base. We have a situation. Unknown asset just arrived through the wormhole. Intelligence profile matches our operational parameters. Recommend immediate observation and possible recruitment. The reply was brief, continue monitoring. Section 31 will assess. The figure melted back into the crowd of the promenade, invisible once more. Nick Fury, walking beside Odo toward guest quarters, felt the familiar tingle at the back of his neck, the sensation that had kept him alive through decades of covert operations. Someone was watching him. Good, he thought. Let them watch. Let them wonder what I'm really doing here. In a universe of telepaths, shapeshifters, and godlike beings, Nick Fury's greatest weapon remained the same as it had always been: information, misdirection, and the absolute certainty that everyone had an agenda. His job was to figure out what those agendas were before they became threats. The Dominion War was about to get a wild card it never expected. And Section 31 was about to meet someone who played the spy game better than they ever imagined. Odo's security office was sparse and functional, much like the changeling himself. No decorations, no personal effects, just terminals, displays showing security feeds from across the station, and a single regeneration chamber in the corner where Odo returned to his liquid state every 16 hours. Fury took in every detail with a single sweep of his eye, cataloging escape routes, surveillance blind spots, and the subtle tells in Odo's body language. You don't trust me, Fury observed, taking the seat Odo gestured toward. Smart. I don't trust anyone, Odo replied, settling behind his desk with perfect posture. It's kept this station secure for 7 years. 7 years. Fury leaned back, appearing relaxed while remaining coiled for action. That's a long time to maintain order on what looks like a major hub of commercial and military traffic. You do it alone. I have a security staff of 43 deputies. Bajoran militia and Starfleet personnel. But yes, ultimately, security is my responsibility. Odo's golden eyes studied Fury with unblinking intensity. Which brings us to you, Mr. Fury. I need to know exactly who and what you are before you move freely about this station. Fair enough. Fury crossed his arms. What do you want to know? Let's start with the basics. You claim to be from an alternate Earth. How do I know you're not a Dominion spy? A founder could easily assume your appearance, create a convincing story about dimensional travel, and infiltrate this station. Fury's eye narrowed slightly, a predator recognizing another predator. If I were one of your shapeshifters, would I have let your doctor scan me? Would I risk medical examination that could expose me? Dr. Bashir's scans showed you were human. But founders have developed techniques to fool our sensors before. Odo stood and retrieved a small vial from his desk drawer. This is a blood screening test. If you're a changeling, your blood will revert to its gelatinous state when separated from your body. If you're human, it remains human blood. You want me to bleed for you? Fury's expression didn't change. Fine. But I'm going to need the same test from you, Constable. Trust works both ways. For the first time, something that might have been respect flickered across Odo's features. Agreed. Bashir arrived within minutes, administered the blood test to both men, and confirmed what Odo already suspected. Fury was human, and Odo was indeed a changeling. As the doctor departed, Odo gestured for Fury to continue. Satisfied? Fury asked. For now. Tell me about S.H.I.E.L.D. Fury spent the next 20 minutes outlining his organization's structure, mission, and operational history. He spoke about threats from hostile governments, extraterrestrial incursions, and enhanced individuals with abilities that defied conventional understanding. He described a world still decades away from unified planetary government, fractured by national interests and ideological conflicts. Your Earth sounds chaotic, Odo observed. It is. But chaos can be managed if you know where to apply pressure. Fury leaned forward. The key to intelligence work, Constable, is understanding that everyone has something to hide. Find out what that something is, and you control the situation. Is that what you're doing now? Looking for leverage? I'm looking for the truth, Fury corrected. Leverage is just what you do with truth once you have it. Odo considered this. You're dangerous, Mr. Fury. Not because you're physically threatening, though I suspect you can handle yourself in a fight. You're dangerous because you think like an intelligence operative in a universe where most people still believe in the inherent goodness of exploration and discovery. Is that a problem? That depends on what you do with that perspective. Odo stood and moved to the window overlooking the promenade. The Federation prides itself on openness, transparency, and trust. Those values have served them well in peacetime. But this war has tested those values in ways they're not prepared for. You sound like you're not entirely sold on Federation idealism. I believe in justice and order, Odo said carefully. Sometimes those require methods the Federation finds uncomfortable. Which is why I'm going to tell you something Commander Sisko didn't mention. There's another organization operating in the shadows of the Federation. They call themselves Section 31. Fury's interest sharpened immediately, though his expression remained neutral. Intelligence Division. Unsanctioned Intelligence Division. They operate outside official channels, beyond Federation law, doing whatever they believe necessary to protect the Federation's interests. Assassination, sabotage, biological warfare, they have no moral limits. Odo turned back to face Fury. They're very good at what they do. And they're going to be very interested in you. You think they're already watching me? I know they are. Odo moved to one of his security terminals and pulled up footage from the promenade. He enhanced the image, showing a nondescript figure in civilian clothing observing Fury's journey to guest quarters. This man has been aboard the station for 3 weeks. He matches no passenger manifest, has no documented arrival, and yet moves through restricted areas without challenge. Classic intelligence operative tradecraft. Fury studied the image with professional appreciation. You know he's here, but you haven't arrested him. Because arresting one operative accomplishes nothing. Section 31 would simply send another. Odo's voice carried a note of frustration. Better to know where he is and what he's observing than to force them deeper underground. You let him operate because you can't stop the organization, so you settle for monitoring their monitoring. Fury nodded slowly. Smart. Pragmatic. The kind of choice that keeps you up at night wondering if you've compromised too much. Odo's features hardened. I do what's necessary to protect this station. I'm not judging, Constable. I'm recognizing a kindred spirit. Fury stood and extended his hand. You and I, we see the world the same way. We know that sometimes the only thing standing between civilization and chaos is someone willing to make hard choices. The difference is, I stopped pretending those choices don't cost us something. Odo shook Fury's hand, his liquid form briefly rippling with unspoken emotion. What did they cost you? Everything that mattered. Fury's voice was quiet but carried the weight of years. I built an organization designed to protect people from threats they couldn't imagine. In the process, I became one of those threats. I made decisions that saved millions and destroyed the lives of individuals who trusted me. I lied to good people, manipulated heroes, and justified every questionable action by telling myself it was for the greater good. Do you regret it? Fury was silent for a long moment. I regret that it was necessary. I don't regret doing it. Before Odo could respond, his comm badge chirped. Kira to Odo. We have a situation in Quarks. Dispute between Klingon officers and Cardassian civilians. It's escalating. Odo tapped his badge. On my way. He looked at Fury. You're welcome to observe. Consider it an introduction to station life. Lead the way, Constable. They moved through the corridors toward Quark's Bar, the station's primary social hub. As they walked, Fury absorbed the rhythms of Deep Space Nine, the mix of Starfleet personnel, Bajoran civilians, alien traders, and military officers from a dozen species. It reminded him of the helicarrier's diversity, but with an openness that felt almost naive to someone accustomed to security clearances and need-to-know protocols. Quark's was controlled chaos. The Ferengi bartender, Quark himself, Fury assumed, was trying to calm a situation that had clearly moved beyond diplomacy. 3 Klingon officers, already deep into blood wine, were standing off against 2 Cardassian merchants. The reptilian Cardassians showed remarkable restraint, but their hands hovered near concealed weapons. Enough. Odo's voice cut through the noise like a blade. The crowd quieted immediately, a testament to the changeling's authority. Gentlemen, take your dispute outside or take it to the security office. Those are your only options. One of the Klingon, a commander by his insignia, turned toward Odo with a sneer. This does not concern Starfleet, shapeshifter. These Cardassian PTQ insulted the honor of the Empire. That demands satisfaction. What it demands is for you to remember you're aboard a Federation starbase where Federation law applies, Odo replied evenly. Whatever grievance you have can be addressed through proper channels. Proper channels? The Klingon laughed bitterly. We fight and die alongside you against the Dominion, and you expect us to follow your bureaucratic nonsense. Fury had been observing in silence, but now he spoke quietly to Odo, the Cardassian on the left. He's carrying a disruptor under his jacket. Right side. Odo's eyes flicked to the individual in question, confirming Fury's assessment. Mr. Fury is correct. Gentlemen, weapons are prohibited in public areas of this station. Surrender your disruptors immediately. The Cardassians exchanged glances. The one Fury had identified moved his hand away from his weapon slowly. We came armed for protection, Constable. Klingon are not known for their restraint when intoxicated. Neither are Cardassians known for their honesty, the Klingon commander shot back. Fury stepped forward before the situation could escalate further. His voice carried the unmistakable authority of someone accustomed to command. Here's what's going to happen. The Klingon are going to finish their drinks and return to their quarters. The Cardassians are going to surrender their weapons to Constable Odo, retrieve them when they depart the station, and everyone walks away with their honor intact. The Klingon commander turned his attention to Fury, taking in the eye patch, the bearing, the complete absence of fear. And who are you to give orders, human? Someone who's fought in more wars than you've had birthdays, Commander. I recognize professional soldiers when I see them. You're not a brawler looking for a fight, you're an officer who's stressed, exhausted, and looking for an outlet for legitimate frustration. I respect that. But this isn't the outlet you want. The Klingon studied Fury for a long moment, warrior assessing warrior. Finally, he nodded slowly. You speak with the voice of experience. Very well. We will honor your suggestion. This time. He turned to his companions. Finish your blood wine. We return to our vessel. As the Klingon departed, the Cardassians reluctantly surrendered their weapons to Odo. The taller of the two merchants regarded Fury with calculating intelligence. You defused a dangerous situation efficiently. Interesting for someone who just arrived on the station. Tell me, stranger, what brings you to Deep Space Nine? Dimensional physics and bad timing, Fury replied. What brings Cardassian merchants to a Federation starbase in the middle of a war? Trade opportunities exist even in conflict. Sometimes especially in conflict. The Cardassian's smile didn't reach his eyes. Perhaps we'll speak again, Mr. Fury. Mr. Fury. I am Ghoul Torin, formerly of the Cardassian Fourth Order. These days, simply a businessman navigating complicated times. He nodded respectfully and departed with his companion. When they were gone, Quark approached Odo with an expression of annoyed gratitude. I suppose I should thank you for not letting them wreck my bar. Again. You could thank me by not serving Klingon blood wine when they're already on edge, Odo replied. Where's the profit in that? Quark gestured to Fury. And who's your intimidating friend? Nick Fury. Recent arrival. He'll be aboard the station for the foreseeable future. Quark's eyes gleamed with the Ferengi instinct for opportunity. Well, Mr. Fury, if you need anything during your stay, entertainment, information, or discreet services of any kind, Quark's is the place to come. I'm sure we can reach a mutually beneficial arrangement. I'll keep that in mind, Fury said noncommittally. As Quark returned to his bar, Odo led Fury back toward the promenade. You handled that well. Military experience. Marines, back in the day. But that was just observation and tactical assessment. The Klingon wasn't really looking for a fight, he was looking for respect. Give it to him, and he de-escalates on his own. And the Cardassian? Fury's expression darkened. Former military officer, now operating as civilian cover. Intelligence operative or someone connected to their intelligence apparatus. He's here for more than trade opportunities. The Obsidian Order, Cardassian intelligence. They're almost as dangerous as Section 31. Odo paused. You identified all of that in a 2-minute interaction. It's what I do, Constable. Read people, identify threats, prepare for contingencies. Fury looked out at the diverse crowd moving through the promenade. This station is a powder keg. You've got multiple species with centuries of conflict forced into proximity by war. Add in intelligence operatives from at least 3 different organizations, refugees, black market traders, and political tensions I'm only beginning to understand, and you've got a situation that could explode at any moment. Welcome to Deep Space Nine, Odo said dryly. Now you understand why I don't trust anyone. Makes 2 of us. Fury's eye tracked movement through the crowd, cataloging faces, noting patterns. Question, this Section 31 operative you showed me earlier. How long before he makes contact? If he follows standard intelligence protocols. Soon. They'll want to assess your value, determine if you're a threat or an asset, and attempt recruitment. Good, Fury said. I'm looking forward to it. Odo regarded him carefully. You want them to approach you. I want to know who I'm dealing with. Can't do that until they show their hand. Fury's smile was cold and calculating. Besides, Constable, if there's one thing I learned running S.H.I.E.L.D., it's that the best way to understand a covert organization is to let them think they're recruiting you. That's a dangerous game. Only if you lose. Fury met Odo's gaze directly. Trust me, I don't lose. As they parted ways, Odo returned to his office and activated a secure channel. Odo to Commander Sisko. We need to talk about our new guest. Privately. In the shadows of the promenade, the Section 31 operative adjusted his surveillance equipment and transmitted a new report. Subject demonstrates advanced intelligence analysis capability. High situational awareness. Recommended action, immediate contact. This asset is too valuable to leave unaffiliated. And in his temporary quarters, Nick Fury sat in darkness, reviewing everything he'd learned in the past 6 hours. Different universe. Galactic war. Multiple intelligence agencies operating in shadows. Political complexity spanning dozens of species and hundreds of worlds. He'd been in worse situations. Barely. His hand moved to his belt, finding the modified communicator he'd managed to keep concealed during the medical examination. It was inert here, no S.H.I.E.L.D. satellites to contact, no agents to deploy, no helicarrier waiting in low orbit. For the first time in 30 years, Nick Fury was truly alone. And somehow, that made him more dangerous than ever. Luther Sloan materialized in Fury's quarters at precisely 0300 hours, a time calculated to catch most humanoids in deep sleep, vulnerable and disoriented. Instead, he found Nick Fury sitting in a chair facing the door, fully dressed, hands folded calmly in his lap. You're late, Fury said. I expected contact within 12 hours of arrival. Took you 18. Either you're more cautious than I gave you credit for, or your organization moves slower than it should. Sloan smiled. The practiced smile of a man who'd spent decades manipulating conversations. Mr. Fury. I apologize for the intrusion, but I thought a private conversation might be mutually beneficial. No apology necessary. I left the door unlocked. Fury gestured to the seat across from him. Sit. Tell me why Section 31 thinks I'm worth recruiting. Sloan's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, barely perceptible, but Fury caught it. Good. Keep him off balance. You know about Section 31, Sloan said, recovering smoothly as he Saturday, Constable Odo, I presume. Does it matter? You're here because you think I'm an asset. I'm listening because I'm curious what kind of organization operates in a society that claims to value transparency. Fury leaned forward slightly. So let's skip the pleasantries. What do you want? Sloan studied Fury with the intensity of a man accustomed to reading people. What he saw intrigued him. Here was someone who understood the necessities of intelligence work without the moral hand-wringing that plagued so many Starfleet officers. Section 31 exists to protect the Federation from threats it's too idealistic to acknowledge, Sloan began. We do the work that allows good people to sleep soundly at night, believing their principles remain intact. We operate without official sanction, without oversight, and without the limitations that cripple conventional intelligence agencies. Sounds familiar, Fury said. I ran an organization with similar parameters. Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement and Logistics Division, S.H.I.E.L.D. We answered to an international council, but operational autonomy was absolute. No oversight boards, no congressional hearings, no public accountability. Just results. Then you understand the necessity of our work. I understand the justification for your work. Doesn't mean I agree with your methods. Fury's eye bored into Sloan. See, here's the problem with organizations like yours and mine. We start with good intentions. Protect people from threats they can't see. Operate in shadows to preserve the light. All very noble. But eventually, you start asking yourself, who decides what constitutes a threat? Who determines which actions are justified? And what happens when the organization designed to protect people becomes the thing they need protection from? Sloane's expression hardened slightly. Philosophical concerns are a luxury we can't afford during wartime, Mr. Fury. The Dominion is an existential threat to the Federation. They seek absolute control through genetic engineering and military conquest. Stopping them requires methods the Federation Council finds distasteful. Give me an example. 6 months ago, Section 31 deployed a morphogenic virus designed to target Founders specifically. If successful, it would have ended the war by eliminating the Dominion's leadership structure entirely. Fury's expression didn't change, but his mind raced through implications. Biological warfare targeting a specific species. Genocide disguised as military necessity. Did it work? Partially. The virus was neutralized before achieving full effectiveness, but it demonstrated our willingness to do what others won't. Sloane leaned forward. That's why I'm here, Mr. Fury. You have skills the Federation desperately needs, strategic thinking unclouded by idealism, tactical analysis refined through decades of covert operations, and a perspective from outside our universe that might reveal vulnerabilities we can't see. You want me to join Section 31. I want you to consider that your arrival here wasn't coincidence. Perhaps you were brought to this universe specifically because we need someone with your capabilities. Someone who understands that preserving civilization sometimes requires sacrificing pieces of it. Fury was quiet for a long moment, appearing to consider Sloane's offer. In reality, he was analyzing every word, every micro-expression, building a psychological profile of both the man and the organization he represented. I have questions, Fury said finally. Of course. Command structure. Who do you answer to? Section 31 operates autonomously. We have no official leadership. Decisions are made collectively by senior operatives based on threat assessment and strategic necessity. So nobody's actually in charge. That's a recipe for mission creep and abuse of authority. Or it ensures no single individual can compromise the organization's integrity. Or, Fury countered, it means everyone's responsible, which effectively means nobody's responsible. I've seen that model before. Doesn't end well. He shifted topics abruptly. Operational resources. How do you fund black operations without oversight? We have access to classified Federation resources and maintain independent revenue streams through strategic investments and asset seizures from hostile organizations. Translation, you steal from criminals and skim from Federation budgets. Fury's tone was neutral, stating fact rather than judgment. Funding mechanism determines operational constraints. If you're dependent on seizures, you're incentivized to create situations where seizures become necessary. That's a conflict of interest. Sloane's smile returned, but colder this time. You're interviewing me as much as I'm recruiting you. Damn right I am. You're asking me to trust an organization I know nothing about, operating without accountability, using methods that include biological warfare and assassination. In my experience, organizations like that are either absolutely necessary or absolutely dangerous. Sometimes both. And which do you think we are? I think you're true believers who've convinced yourselves the ends justify the means. I think you've rationalized every questionable action by pointing at the Dominion and saying, we're the lesser evil. And I think eventually, you'll cross a line you can't uncross, and you'll justify that too. Sloane stood, his recruitment pitch clearly not proceeding as planned. Then why are we having this conversation, Mr. Fury? If you disapprove of our methods, why not simply refuse? Fury stood as well, meeting Sloane's gaze directly. Because I'm not naive enough to think you'll just walk away if I say no. Organizations like Section 31 don't handle rejection well. If I'm not an asset, I'm a potential threat. Better to keep talking than force you to make a decision neither of us wants. Are you threatening me? I'm stating operational reality. You came here to recruit or assess. I'm giving you the assessment. I'm not interested in joining Section 31, but I'm not interested in being your enemy either. I'm here to help fight the Dominion. How I do that is my business. Sloane studied Fury for a long moment, recalculating. You realize that stance makes you a wild card. Unpredictable variables are dangerous in intelligence work. Good thing I'm not in intelligence work anymore. Fury moved toward the door, a clear dismissal. I appreciate the offer, Sloane. Really. But I've already made the mistakes you're currently making. I'm not interested in repeating them. What mistakes? Fury paused at the door, his back to Sloane. Believing that sacrificing your principles to save civilization actually saves civilization. It doesn't. It just creates a different version of the thing you're fighting against. He turned, his eye hard and certain. The day you're willing to become monsters to fight monsters is the day you've already lost. Sloane walked to the door, stopping beside Fury. Idealism is a beautiful sentiment, Mr. Fury. But it doesn't win wars. Neither does losing yourself in the process. Fury opened the door. We're done here. After Sloane departed, Fury sealed the door and ran a security sweep of his quarters using improvised techniques, checking for surveillance devices, passive listening equipment, anything Section 31 might have planted during the conversation. He found 3 separate monitoring systems, all Federation technology modified for covert operation. He left them in place. Better to know you're being watched than to force your watchers to get creative. His comm badge chirped. Cisco to Fury. Report to my office immediately. Fury tapped the badge. On my way. Commander Cisco's office was dark except for the ambient light from the wormhole. Dax and Kira stood near the windows, their expressions grim. Odo occupied his usual position, observing silently. We have a problem, Cisco said without preamble. 3 hours ago, a Cardassian transport was destroyed just outside Bajoran space. All hands lost. Preliminary investigation suggests sabotage. Fury absorbed this information instantly. The Cardassians you let go from Quarks earlier. Ghoul Torin and his associate. How did you? Kira started. They were intelligence operatives, probably Obsidian Order or former Order trying to maintain relevance after their organization's collapse. They wouldn't have been aboard a civilian transport unless they were transporting something valuable or meeting someone they didn't want Federation sensors recording. Fury looked at Cisco. What was the transport carrying? According to Manifest, industrial replicator components. According to our intelligence, biochemical compounds with potential weapons applications. Cisco's expression was troubled. The explosion destroyed all evidence. We have no way to determine if the cargo was aboard or if this was a cover for something else. You think someone wanted those Cardassians dead, Fury said. Or someone wanted whatever they were carrying, Dax added. The timing is suspicious. They're questioned by station security, leave within hours, and their transport explodes before reaching Cardassian space. Fury turned to Odo. The Section 31 operative who was watching me. Where is he? Unknown. He left the station approximately 30 minutes before the transport's departure. Odo's features tightened. You think Section 31 was involved? I think Section 31 doesn't believe in coincidences any more than I do. If those Cardassians were transporting biological weapons or weapons-grade materials, your people would want to intercept it. Destroying the transport ensures nobody gets it and sends a message to anyone else trying to smuggle contraband through Federation space. Kira's voice was sharp. Are you saying Section 31 murdered civilians to prevent a hypothetical threat? I'm saying it fits their operational pattern. Preemptive action. Eliminate threats before they materialize. Acceptable collateral damage in service of larger strategic goals. Fury's tone was matter-of-fact. It's what I would have done 10 years ago. And now? Sisko asked quietly. Now I'd ask more questions before blowing things up. Like, who were the Cardassians meeting? What was the biochemical compound actually for? And why risk an incident with Cardassia during a war when we need every ally we can get? Fury moved to the window, watching the stars. Section 31 operates on assumptions. They see a potential threat, they eliminate it. Fast, efficient, no moral ambiguity. Problem is, eventually you stop asking whether the threat is real. You just see threats everywhere. Speaking from experience. Dax asked gently. Yeah. Fury turned back to face them. I've given orders that killed people based on threat assessments that turned out to be wrong. I've authorized strikes against targets that might have been hostile. Might have. And every time, I told myself it was necessary. That the alternative was worse. That I was protecting people. His voice was quiet but carried the weight of regret. Took me too long to realize I was just protecting my own certainty. The room was silent for a moment. Sisko broke it. Mr. Fury, I need to know, did Sloane tell you about this operation? No. He tried to recruit me, I declined. We had a philosophical debate about the nature of necessary evil. He didn't mention any active operations. Fury met Sisko's gaze directly. If I had known about this, I would have told you. Whatever else I am, Commander, I'm not interested in unnecessary deaths. I believe you, Sisko said. Which is why I'm going to ask for your help. Section 31 operates in shadows, beyond my authority. But you've dealt with organizations like this before. How do we stop them from doing this again? Fury considered carefully. You don't stop them. Not permanently. But you can limit their effectiveness by making their operations more difficult. Increased security protocols, better intelligence sharing between Federation agencies, public accountability for unexplained incidents. Force them to work harder for their secrecy. That would require political will that doesn't exist during wartime, Kira objected. Then you focus on the immediate problem, finding out what Ghoul Torin was really transporting and who wanted it badly enough to kill for it. Fury looked at Odo. Can you access the transport sensor logs before the explosion? Already done. There's an anomaly, a brief energy signature consistent with Federation transporter technology approximately 90 seconds before detonation. Someone beamed something off that ship before destroying it. They took the cargo, Fury concluded. Destroyed the ship to cover the theft and eliminate witnesses. Professional operation. Clean. Effective. He turned to Sisko. If Section 31 has biochemical weapons or weapons-grade materials, they're going to use them. Question is, against what target? Dax pulled up a tactical display. The Dominion has been reinforcing positions near the Bajoran wormhole. Intelligence suggests they're preparing for a major offensive within the next 2 weeks. If Section 31 has biological weapons, they'll deploy them against the Dominion fleet, Fury finished. Massive casualties, potential war crime, but tactically effective. We can't let that happen, Sisko said firmly. The Federation doesn't wage biological warfare. Section 31 isn't the Federation. That's the point. Fury's expression was grim. They'll justify it as saving lives in the long run. End the war faster, prevent protracted conflict, all those utilitarian calculations. And they'll be right, mathematically. Biological attack on the Dominion fleet could change the strategic balance. At the cost of our principles, Sisko said. Principles don't win wars, Commander. People do. The question is, what kind of people do you want to be when the war is over? Kira stepped forward, her voice intense. We spent decades under Cardassian occupation. They justified every atrocity as military necessity. Every torture, every execution, every crime against my people, all necessary for the greater good of Cardassia. If we adopt their methods, we become them. Fury nodded slowly. You're right, Major. And that's the trap. The enemy sets the moral battlefield, and you feel like you have to descend to their level to compete. But once you're down there, you can't climb back up. So what do we do? Sisko asked. Fury was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Finally, we find out exactly what Section 31 took from that transport, where they're planning to deploy it, and we stop them. Not because it's easy. Not because it'll win the war. But because if we don't, we'll have proven that everything the Federation stands for is negotiable. How do we find Section 31's operational plans when they operate completely off the books? Dax asked. A cold smile crossed Fury's face. The same way I used to find Hydra sleeper cells inside S.H.I.E.L.D. You follow the money, you track the resources, and you wait for them to make a mistake. Every organization makes mistakes eventually. Section 31 isn't as invisible as they think they are. Odo's features shifted into something approaching satisfaction. You have a plan. I have the beginning of a plan. The rest depends on how desperate Section 31 is and how much they're willing to risk for operational success. Fury looked at each of them in turn. But I need something from all of you. Complete operational freedom. No reports, no oversight, no questions about my methods. If I'm going to hunt Section 31, I need to operate the way they do, in the shadows. Absolutely not, Kira said immediately. That's exactly the kind of thinking that creates organizations like Section 31 in the first place. She's right, Sisko agreed. I won't authorize a black operation to stop a black operation. That's a line I won't cross. Fury nodded, expecting this response. Then we do it the hard way. Official channels, proper procedure, all by the book. But understand, that gives Section 31 every advantage. They'll see us coming, they'll adapt, and people will die. Perhaps, Sisko said quietly. But at least we'll still be who we say we are. Admirable, Commander. Fury's respect was genuine. I hope that conviction survives contact with reality. As the meeting concluded and Fury left Ops, he found himself respecting Sisko more than he'd expected. Here was a man facing impossible choices who refused to compromise his principles even when compromise might be tactically advantageous. It was the kind of leadership Fury had spent his career cynically dismissing as naive. Maybe naive wasn't the right word. Maybe it was just courage of a different kind. His comm badge chirped again. Fury, this is Quark. I have information you might find valuable. Meet me in Holosut 3. Alone. Fury's instincts screamed trap, but his curiosity won. On my way. As he walked through the promenade toward Quark's, Fury felt the familiar weight of operational complexity settling on his shoulders. Section 31. The Dominion. Internal Federation politics. Biological weapons. And now, a Ferengi bartender with information. In his old life, he'd have had a dozen agents to deploy, satellites to reposition, and unlimited resources. Here, he had himself, his experience, and the growing realization that this universe's conflicts were more complex than any he'd faced before. Good, he thought. Simple was boring. And Nick Fury had never been very good at boring. Holosut 3 displayed a perfect replica of a Terran bar from the mid-20th century. Dark wood, brass fixtures, and the smell of tobacco smoke that existed only in holographic recreation. Quark stood behind the bar, polishing a glass with the practiced ease of someone who'd spent decades in hospitality. Or at least the appearance of hospitality. Nice place, Fury said, stepping inside and hearing the Holosut door seal behind him. Privacy field. Naturally. What we discuss here stays here. Quark poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. Synthahol for me, actual whiskey for you. I assumed a man of your reputation would appreciate authenticity. Fury took the glass but didn't drink. What's your angle, Quark? Ferengi don't give away information for free. Perceptive and direct. I like that. Quark's smile widened, revealing rows of sharp teeth. You're right, there's always an angle. But in this case, our interests align. Section 31's activities are bad for business. They create instability, disrupt trade routes, and make life difficult for honest merchants trying to earn a living. Honest merchants. Fury's tone was dry. Sure. Relatively honest, Quark amended. The point is, Section 31 doesn't respect the rules of commerce or the sanctity of legitimate business operations. They steal, they sabotage, they manipulate markets for strategic advantage. If they're allowed to operate unchecked, eventually they'll decide my bar is a security risk and shut me down. So you're protecting your business interests by helping me stop them. Exactly. See? We understand each other perfectly. Quark leaned forward conspiratorially. I have extensive contacts throughout the quadrant, traders, smugglers, information brokers, people who see and hear things official channels miss. And recently, I've heard something disturbing. Fury set down his untouched glass. I'm listening. 3 weeks ago, a Iridian trader passed through the station. Iridians are notorious information dealers, they traffic in secrets the way I traffic in beverages. This particular Iridian mentioned that Section 31 had been purchasing large quantities of medical supplies from black market sources. Not standard field kits, specialized biochemical containment equipment, gene sequencing technology, and viral cultivation apparatus. They're weaponizing something biological, Fury said. That matches the intel from the destroyed Cardassian transport. Indeed. But here's the interesting part, the Iridian said Section 31 wasn't just developing one weapon. They were developing multiple strains, each targeted at specific genetic markers. Quark's expression grew serious. They're creating species-specific bioweapons, Mr. Fury. Not just for Founders, for Jem'Hadar, for Vorta, potentially for other Dominion allies. Fury's mind raced through strategic implications. Multiple bioweapons meant multiple deployment vectors, redundancy in case one strain failed, and the ability to target different parts of the Dominion's command structure simultaneously. It was brilliant, ruthless, and completely in character for an organization like Section 31. It was also exactly the kind of operation he would have authorized in his S.H.I.E.L.D. days. Where is Section 31 developing these weapons? Fury asked. Unknown. But the equipment was shipped to coordinates near the Romulan neutral zone, specifically, a region with several abandoned Cardassian outposts left over from before the war. Perfect location for covert research, remote, difficult to access, and nominally neutral territory where Federation presence wouldn't raise immediate suspicion. You're giving me a lot of actionable intelligence for someone whose primary concern is bar revenue. Quark's expression shifted, something genuine breaking through his commercial facade. My brother Ram is chief engineer on this station. My nephew Nog is serving aboard the USS Defiant as a Starfleet officer. If Section 31's bioweapons are deployed and the Dominion retaliates with their own biological warfare, this entire sector becomes a plague zone. Nobody profits when everyone's dead, Mr. Fury. Fury studied Quark carefully, reassessing. Behind the greed and the bluster was genuine fear for his family. It was the most human, or at least humanoid, motivation possible. Fair enough, Fury said. What do you want in return for this information? Your word that if you stop Section 31, you'll mention to Commander Sisko that I was helpful. My bar operates in a legal gray area. A little goodwill with Station Command never hurts. Done. Fury extended his hand. Quark shook it, surprised by the simple directness of the agreement. That's it? No negotiation. No demanding proof. You're motivated by self-interest, which makes you predictable. And predictable allies are more reliable than idealistic ones because I know exactly what you'll do in any given situation. Fury moved toward the door. Besides, if you're lying to me, I'll come back and destroy your bar. Thoroughly. A reasonable arrangement, Quark said nervously. Pleasure doing business with you, Mr. Fury. As Fury left the holosuit, his comm badge immediately chirped. Dax to Fury. We have a situation. The USS Defiant just received a distress call from a Federation science vessel operating near the Romulan neutral zone. They're under attack by unknown forces. Captain Sisko is assembling an away team. Romulan neutral zone, Fury repeated. That's not a coincidence. I'm on my way to the Defiant. The USS Defiant was unlike any vessel Fury had encountered, compact, powerful, and built explicitly for combat. It represented the Federation's pragmatic response to the Borg threat, stripped of scientific pretense and focused entirely on tactical superiority. Fury appreciated the honesty of its design. Sisko stood in the command center, surrounded by his senior staff. Worf, the Klingon tactical officer, was already plotting intercept courses. Chief O'Brien monitored engineering systems. Dax coordinated sensor arrays. Kira prepared security teams. Mr. Fury, Sisko acknowledged as Fury entered. We're departing in 5 minutes. The science vessel, the USS Fleming, reported hostile fire before communications were cut. Their last transmission mentioned Romulan ships, but something about the attack pattern seemed wrong. Wrong how? Fury asked. Romulans are strategic. They ambush, they use cloaking technology, they strike with overwhelming force and disappear. This attack was sustained, visible, and designed to cripple rather than destroy. Dax pulled up tactical data. It's almost like they wanted the Fleming disabled but intact. They wanted the crew alive, Fury concluded. Which means they want something the crew knows or something aboard that ship. Worf's deep voice rumbled through the bridge. The Fleming is a science vessel specializing in biochemical research. Its recent mission was analyzing viral mutation patterns in Gamma Quadrant species. Fury and Sisko exchanged glances. The pieces were falling into place with disturbing clarity. Section 31 uses the Fleming for bioweapons research, Fury said. Remote location, classified mission parameters, plausible scientific cover. The attack isn't Romulan, it's staged to look Romulan. Someone wants access to that research. The Dominion, Kira suggested. If they discovered Section 31 was developing species-specific weapons, they'd want that research destroyed or captured. Or, Fury countered, someone wants us to think it's the Dominion. Classic false flag operation. Create an incident that justifies escalation, blame your enemy, use the resulting chaos to advance your own agenda. Sisko's jaw tightened. Helm, maximum warp to the Fleming's last known coordinates. Red alert. All hands to battle stations. The Defiant surged forward, its powerful engines propelling the ship toward the neutral zone at speeds that would have been impossible for larger vessels. Fury found himself impressed by the ship's responsiveness. Every system optimized for combat efficiency. Question, Commander, Fury said as they traveled. If this is a Section 31 operation and they're trying to protect their research, why allow a distress call? Why not just destroy the Fleming and claim it was lost to Romulan attack? Because, Dax said slowly, working through the logic, they want Starfleet to respond. They want witnesses to a Romulan attack, to justify, what? Retaliatory action against the Romulans? No, Fury said. Romulan Federation relations are already strained. Starting a war with a current ally would be counterproductive. He turned to Sisko. Unless the goal isn't to start a war. It's to create justification for deploying the bioweapons against the Dominion. We tried diplomacy, we tried conventional warfare, but after the Romulans betrayed us and destroyed our research vessel, we have no choice but to use every weapon at our disposal. The bridge was silent as the implications sank in. Their manufacturing consent, Kira said quietly. Creating a crisis to justify weapons deployment that would otherwise be unconscionable. It's Psychological Operations 101, Fury confirmed. You want to do something morally questionable, you create a situation where it becomes the only option. People will accept almost anything if they're scared enough or angry enough. Worf looked up from his tactical display. We are approaching the Fleming's coordinates. Sensors detect 3 vessels, 2 Romulan warbuds and the Fleming. The science vessel is disabled but intact. No active weapons fire currently. On screen, Sisko ordered. The view screen showed the Fleming drifting in space, its hull breached in multiple locations but not critically damaged. The 2 Romulan warbuds flanked it in attack formation, but their weapons were powered down. This is wrong, Fury said immediately. If this were a real attack, the Romulans would have finished the job or cloaked and retreated the moment Starfleet responded. They're just sitting there. Hail the Romulan vessels, Sisko commanded. The view screen shifted to show a Romulan commander, tall, imperious, with the characteristic pointed ears and severe features of his species. But his expression wasn't hostile. It was confused. This is Commander Tomalak of the Romulan warbird Valdor. Captain Sisko, I assure you, we are not responsible for this attack. Then why are you here, Commander? Sisko's tone was carefully neutral. We responded to the same distress call your vessel received. When we arrived, the Fleming was already disabled. We have been attempting to render assistance, but the Federation crew refuses to communicate with us. They appear to be frightened of something that isn't Romulan aggression. Fury stepped forward. Commander Tomalak, this is Nick Fury. Were there any other vessels in the area when you arrived? Tomalak's eyes narrowed, studying Fury. One unidentified ship, cloaked but detectable through gravimetric distortion. It departed before we could intercept. Federation design, but using modified cloaking technology we've never encountered before. Section 31, Fury said to Sisko. They attacked the Fleming, staged it to look Romulan, then disappeared when actual Romulans showed up. Their operation just got complicated. This is ridiculous, Kira interjected. Why would Section 31 attack their own research vessel? Because something went wrong, Fury said. Maybe the research was compromised. Maybe someone aboard the Fleming had second thoughts about weaponizing viruses. Maybe the crew discovered what they were really working on and refused to continue. He turned to Sisko. Either way, Section 31 needed to contain the situation. Destroying the ship destroys the evidence and the witnesses. Sisko made a decision. Commander Tomalak, stand down your weapons. We're beaming an away team to the Fleming. You're welcome to send observers to verify we're conducting a legitimate rescue operation. Tomalak considered this. Agreed. But Captain Sisko, understand that the Romulan Empire will not tolerate being framed for attacks we did not commit. If Section 31 is responsible for this incident, we will demand accountability. So will I, Commander. The away team materialized aboard the Fleming's bridge. Emergency lighting cast everything in red. Consoles sparked from damaged systems. And in the center of it all, 3 crew members stood with hand phasers drawn, aimed directly at the away team. Don't move. The Fleming's captain, a human woman, mid-40s, with the haunted look of someone who'd seen too much, kept her weapon steady. I don't care if you're Starfleet. I don't trust anyone. Sisko raised his hand slowly. Captain Reeves, I'm Commander Benjamin Sisko of Deep Space Nine. We're here to help. Help? Reeves laughed bitterly. You're here to finish what they started. Section 31 wants us dead, and they'll use anyone to make it happen. Fury stepped forward, ignoring the phaser aimed at his chest. Captain Reeves, my name is Nick Fury. I'm not Starfleet, I'm not Section 31, and I don't give a damn about their operational security. What I care about is stopping them from deploying biological weapons that'll make this war even worse than it already is. But I can't do that without information. So lower the weapon and talk to me. Reeves studied Fury with the intensity of someone evaluating threat assessment in real time. Finally, she lowered her phaser. Her crew followed suit. We didn't know, she said quietly, her voice breaking. For 6 months, we've been researching viral mutation patterns. We thought we were developing vaccines, countermeasures to protect Federation citizens from Dominion biological attacks. Then 2 days ago, I accessed classified portions of our own database, portions I wasn't supposed to see. What did you find? Dax asked gently. We weren't developing vaccines. We were developing weapons. Hemorrhagic viruses targeted specifically at Jem'Hadar physiology. Neural toxins keyed to Vorta genetic markers. And something worse. A morphogenic virus designed to target founders, making them unable to maintain solid form. Reeves looked at Cisco with desperate eyes. We created genocide weapons, Commander. And we did it thinking we were saving lives. Section 31 manipulated your research, Fury said. Fed you partial data, controlled your parameters, ensured you reached the conclusions they wanted without understanding the full picture. Classic intelligence tradecraft. When I discovered the truth, I tried to destroy the research. But our operations officer, Lieutenant Kellen, he's Section 31. He sabotaged our systems, sent a coded transmission, and then disappeared in an escape pod. 20 minutes later, we were under attack. Ships we thought were Romulan, but the weapon signatures were wrong. Too precise. Too controlled. They wanted you dead and the research destroyed, Cisco concluded. No witnesses, no evidence. But we survived, Reeves said. And I made copies of everything. Every weapons specification, every deployment protocol, every communication with Section 31 handlers. It's all here. She pulled a data isolinear chip from her uniform. If this gets out, it proves Section 31 has been conducting illegal bioweapons research in direct violation of Federation law and interstellar treaties. Fury took the chip carefully. This is leverage. Proof. The kind of evidence that can bring down an entire covert operation. It's also a death sentence, Reeves said. The moment Section 31 knows we have this, they'll escalate. No more subtle attacks. They'll throw everything at us to prevent this information from reaching Federation authorities. Worf's combadge chirped. Worf to away team. Multiple vessels are decloaking around the Fleming. Federation signatures, but not responding to hails. They're powering weapons. Section 31, Fury said. They're not playing subtle anymore. Cisco tapped his combadge. All hands, prepare for emergency transport. Get the Fleming's crew to the Defiant immediately. The transporter began cycling, beaming Fleming crew members to safety. But as the process continued, Fury noticed something wrong. The ships surrounding them weren't just targeting the Fleming, they were positioning for something more complex. They're going to destroy both ships, Fury said suddenly. The Fleming and the Defiant. Make it look like a Romulan ambush, eliminate all witnesses, and use the incident to justify deploying the bioweapons. That's insane, Kira said. Destroying a Starfleet warship would require authorization at the highest levels. Section 31 doesn't ask for authorization, Fury replied. They create situations where their actions become inevitable. The last of the Fleming's crew beamed away. Only the away team remained. Cisco to Defiant. Get us out of here. Now. But before the transporter could engage, one of the Section 31 vessels fired, not at the Fleming, but at the Defiant's shields. The transport was disrupted. They were trapped. And Section 31 was done playing games. The Fleming's bridge shuddered as weapons fire from the Section 31 vessels hammered its failing shields. Fury dove behind a tactical console as debris rained from the ceiling. Sisko, Worf, Dax, and Kira spread out across the bridge, each seeking cover and tactical advantage. Defiant is taking heavy fire, Worf reported, checking his tricorder. They're attempting evasive maneuvers but are outnumbered 4-1. Chief O'Brien reports shields at 60% and falling. Can we restore communications? Sisko demanded. Dax worked frantically at the damaged console. Negative. Section 31 is jamming all frequencies. We're cut off. Fury assessed their situation with cold tactical clarity. Trapped aboard a disabled vessel. Enemy forces controlling the battlefield. Limited weapons and no reinforcements. In his S.H.I.E.L.D. days, this would have been classified as a no-win scenario. Good thing he'd never believed in no-win scenarios. Commander Tomalak's warbuds, Fury said. They're still out there, and they're not under attack. Section 31 can't afford to start a shooting war with the Romulans while trying to cover up their operation. That's our advantage. What are you suggesting? Sisko asked. We use the one thing Section 31 didn't account for, Romulan pride and paranoia. They hate being manipulated as much as they hate the Federation. If we can prove to Tomalak that Section 31 is trying to frame them for this attack, the Romulans become our allies. Kira looked skeptical. The Romulans don't ally with anyone except when it serves their interests. Exactly, Fury said. And right now, their interest is proving they're not responsible for attacking Federation vessels. Tomalak wants credibility. We give him evidence, he gives us firepower. Worf's expression showed grudging approval. A pragmatic strategy. But how do we communicate with the Romulans when all frequencies are jammed? Fury moved to the helm console, examining the Fleming's crippled systems. This ship has escape pods, right? And escape pods have their own independent communications arrays for distress beacons. You want to launch an escape pod? Dax said. Section 31 will destroy it the moment it separates from the ship. Not if they think it's debris. Fury's fingers flew across the console with surprising familiarity. Different technology, but control logic followed universal principles. We program the pod for silent launch, no active systems, coasting on inertia alone. It looks like wreckage from the Fleming's hull breaches. Once it's clear of the jamming field, we activate the beacon on Romulan frequencies only. Sisko understood immediately. The Romulans intercept the pod, receive our evidence about Section 31's operation, and realize they're being set up. They intervene on their own behalf, which coincidentally helps us. Everyone wins except Section 31, Fury confirmed. But we need to move fast. The longer this firefight continues, the more likely the Defiant suffers critical damage. Do it, Sisko ordered. Fury and Dax worked in tandem, him handling tactical programming, her managing the Fleming's failing power distribution to give the escape pod enough energy for launch. It was delicate work made more difficult by the constant weapons fire shaking the ship. Pod is ready, Dax reported. I'm transferring all of Captain Reeves' data to the pod's memory core. If the Romulans retrieve it, they'll have complete proof of Section 31's bioweapons program. And if Section 31 retrieves it? Kira asked. Then we're exactly where we started, Fury said. But at least we tried. The escape pod launched silently, tumbling away from the Fleming in a trajectory that made it look like battle debris. For 30 agonizing seconds, nobody aboard the bridge breathed. Then Worf spoke, Section 31 vessels are not targeting the pod. They have classified it as non-threatening debris. Phase 1 complete, Fury said. Now we wait. Wait for what? Sisko asked. For the Romulans to do what Romulans do best, turn a crisis into an opportunity. Aboard the Valdor, Commander Tomalak watched the battle with growing concern. The Federation vessels attacking the Defiant used Federation technology but operated with a ruthlessness that suggested something more sinister than standard Starfleet engagement protocols. Commander, his sensor officer reported, we have detected an escape pod from the Fleming. It appears to be transmitting on a narrowband Romulan frequency. The message is coded for your personal attention only. Tomalak's eyes narrowed. Retrieve the pod immediately. And prepare for possible hostile action from the unidentified Federation vessels. Minutes later, the pod's data was being analyzed on the Valdor's bridge. What Tomalak saw made his blood run cold. Not from fear, but from calculated fury. Section 31's entire bioweapons program, complete with deployment protocols and falsified evidence designed to implicate Romulan forces in the Fleming's destruction. They were going to blame us, Tomalak said quietly, his voice deadly calm. They were going to use this incident to poison Federation-Romulan relations, justify deployment of biological weapons, and potentially drag us into open conflict with Starfleet. His tactical officer awaited orders. Commander. Tomalak's decision was immediate. Target the unidentified Federation vessels. Full disruptor spread. No warnings. They have attempted to manipulate the Romulan Star Empire for their covert agenda. That is an act of war. The Romulan warbuds decloaked with devastating precision, their weapons already charged. Disruptor fire lanced across space, striking the Section 31 vessels with overwhelming force. 2 of the 4 ships lost shields immediately. A third vessel attempted to retreat but found itself trapped between Romulan and Defiant fire. Aboard the Fleming, the away team watched the tactical situation transform. Romulans are engaging Section 31 forces, Worf reported with satisfaction. Enemy vessels are taking heavy damage. Fury's gamble had worked. Tomalak wasn't helping the Federation, he was punishing Section 31 for attempting to manipulate Romulan honor. But the result was the same, the tide of battle had turned. Sisko to Defiant. Chief, can you get a transporter lock on us now? O'Brien's voice crackled through restored communications. Aye, sir. Jamming field is collapsing as Section 31 vessels are forced to divert power to defensive systems. Stand by for emergency transport. The away team materialized on the Defiant's bridge moments later. The view screen showed the Section 31 vessels in full retreat, pursued by Romulan warbuds that showed no mercy. Should we assist? Kira asked Sisko. Negative, Sisko said firmly. Let the Romulans handle this. We have bigger problems. He turned to Fury. That was brilliant tactical thinking, Mr. Fury. You turned an enemy into an ally without firing a shot. Not an ally, Fury corrected. A temporarily aligned interest. Tomalak will demand answers from the Federation Council about Section 31's existence and operations. This incident just became a diplomatic crisis. Dax pulled up the data from the isolinear chip Captain Reeves had provided. Benjamin, this information is explosive. It proves Section 31 has been developing weapons banned by Federation law and interstellar treaties. If this goes public, it destroys Section 31's operational effectiveness, Fury finished. Which is exactly why they'll do everything in their power to prevent it from reaching Federation authorities. We have the evidence, Kira said. We have witnesses. We can bring this to Starfleet Command right now. Fury shook his head. You're thinking conventionally. Section 31 doesn't operate conventionally. They have operatives embedded throughout Starfleet, intelligence assets in positions of authority, and decades of institutional protection. You transmit this data to Starfleet Command, there's a 50-50 chance it gets intercepted, classified, and buried before anyone with actual authority sees it. Then what do you suggest? Sisko asked. We use their own tactics against them. Leak the information to multiple sources simultaneously. Federation Council members, allied governments, independent media networks. Make it so widespread that Section 31 can't possibly contain it all. Fury's expression was grim. But understand, Commander, the moment we do that, we declare open war on an organization that has unlimited resources and zero accountability. They will retaliate. Sisko met Fury's gaze steadily. If we don't expose them, they'll deploy bioweapons that could kill billions. That's not acceptable. Agreed, Fury said. But don't underestimate what we're up against. Section 31 has survived for over 200 years by being smarter, more ruthless, and more paranoid than everyone else. Taking them down won't be clean. It won't be easy. And it might cost us more than we're willing to pay. Worf stepped forward. Then we make the cost worth paying. Honor demands we expose this corruption. It's not about honor, Fury said quietly. It's about deciding what kind of people you want to be. The easy path is letting Section 31 deploy their weapons, end the war faster, and accept that victory came at the price of genocide. The hard path is fighting on two fronts, the Dominion in front of you, and your own people's darker impulses behind you. The bridge was silent. Finally, Sisko spoke. Set course for Deep Space Nine, maximum warp. We're going to need to coordinate with Admiral Ross and Starfleet intelligence. This needs to be handled carefully. As the Defiant jumped to warp, Fury stood at the viewscreen, watching the stars streak past. He felt the familiar weight of operational complexity settling on his shoulders, the knowledge that his actions would have consequences he couldn't fully predict. In his universe, he'd made similar choices. He'd exposed corruption within S.H.I.E.L.D., revealed Hydra's infiltration, and watched the organization he'd built crumble. The revelation had saved countless lives but had also created chaos, uncertainty, and power vacuums that hostile forces exploited. Was he about to do the same thing here? Dax appeared beside him, her ancient symbiont's wisdom evident in her eyes. You're wondering if this is the right move. I'm wondering if right and wrong matter as much as we pretend they do, Fury replied. In my experience, most conflicts aren't between good and evil. They're between different versions of necessity, each convinced their approach is the only viable option. That's a very trill perspective, Dax said with a slight smile. My symbiont has lived through 8 lifetimes, witnessed wars, revolutions, and social transformations. What I've learned is that principles matter most when they're hardest to maintain. Anyone can be ethical when it's convenient. True character is revealed when doing the right thing costs you everything. And if doing the right thing gets people killed, then you mourn the dead and keep fighting for the living. It's all anyone can do. Fury considered this. You're more pragmatic than I expected from a Starfleet officer. I've been a gymnast, a pilot, a mother, a politician, and a scientist across 8 lifetimes, Dax said. You learn that idealism and pragmatism aren't opposites, they're complementary. You need vision to know where you're going and practicality to actually get there. Before Fury could respond, the tactical console erupted in alarms. We have an incoming transmission, Worf reported. Source, unknown. Heavily encrypted. It's addressed specifically to Nick Fury. Everyone turned to look at him. On screen, Sisko said. The view screen shifted to show Luther Sloan's face, calm, composed, and utterly unbothered by the fact that his operation had just been exposed. Mr. Fury. I must admit, I underestimated you. Using Romulan paranoia to turn them against us was creative. Recruiting Commander Tomalak as an unwitting ally demonstrated tactical sophistication I should have anticipated. Sloan's smile was cold. But did you really think exposing Section 31 would accomplish anything? It'll put you out of business, Fury said flatly. No. It'll make us more careful. More selective. More necessary. Sloan leaned forward. You think revealing our bioweapons program will shock the Federation into disbanding us? Let me tell you what will actually happen. There will be hearings, investigations, public outcry. Some of our operatives will be identified and prosecuted. Admirals will resign. Politicians will condemn us. Sounds like accountability to me, Kira said. And then, Sloan continued as if she hadn't spoken, the Dominion will launch another offensive. More Federation colonies will burn. More Starfleet personnel will die. And eventually, someone in a position of authority will quietly suggest that perhaps Section 31's approach, however distasteful, might be necessary after all. You're saying nothing will change, Sisko said. I'm saying that institutions exist because they serve a purpose. Section 31 exists because the Federation needs someone willing to do what Starfleet can't. Expose us, destroy us, condemn us, it doesn't matter. Whatever replaces us will be functionally identical because the underlying need hasn't changed. Fury stepped closer to the view screen. There's a flaw in your logic, Sloan. You assume the Federation needs an organization like Section 31. But what if the real problem is that Section 31 creates situations that justify its own existence? What if half the threats you claim to protect against only exist because of your interventions? For the first time, Sloane's composure wavered slightly. That's a naive oversimplification. Is it? You developed bioweapons that could end the war. But deploying those weapons would guarantee Dominion retaliation with their own biological warfare. Suddenly, the entire Alpha Quadrant is a plague zone, and only Section 31 has the ruthlessness to do what's necessary. You're not protecting the Federation, Sloan. You're engineering crises that ensure you remain relevant. You're projecting, Mr. Fury. From what I understand about your history, S.H.I.E.L.D. operated on similar principles. How many threats did your organization create through its own interventions? Fury's jaw tightened. More than I can count. Which is exactly why I know what you're doing and why it has to stop. Sloan was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried a note of genuine curiosity. What makes you think you're any different than us? You ran a covert organization that answered to no one. You made decisions that cost lives. You manipulated heroes and lied to civilians. We're the same, you and I. No, Fury said quietly. The difference is I stopped. I recognized that the organization I built had become the threat it was supposed to prevent. I took responsibility, exposed the corruption, and accepted the consequences. You're still telling yourself that what you're doing is necessary. That's the difference between someone who learned from their mistakes and someone who's still making them. Sloane's expression hardened. Then I suppose we have nothing more to discuss. Enjoy your moral victory, Mr. Fury. I'm sure it will be great comfort when the Dominion conquers the Alpha Quadrant. The transmission ended. Sisko turned to Fury. He's going to deploy the bioweapons. He knows we have the evidence, knows we can expose Section 31, so he's accelerating his timeline. Agreed, Fury said. He'll strike before we can coordinate with Starfleet Command. Probably within the next 48 hours. Can we stop him? Kira asked. That depends on whether we can figure out where Section 31 is staging their deployment. Fury turned to Dax. You said the equipment was shipped to the Romulan neutral zone near abandoned Cardassian outposts. How many potential locations does that leave? Dax called up tactical maps. 17 former Cardassian facilities within that region. But only 3 have the infrastructure necessary for advanced biological research, Station Regula, Outpost S.H.I.E.L.D, and Deep Space Station K-7. K-7 is still operational, Worf noted. Federation personnel are stationed there. Section 31 would not risk exposure by using an active facility. That leaves Regula and S.H.I.E.L.D, Sisko said. We split our forces. Defiant investigates one, Romulan assistance for the other. No, Fury said. We don't split up. That's what Sloan expects, divide our resources, reduce our effectiveness, buy himself time. We pick the most likely target and commit completely. How do we determine which is most likely? Dax asked. Fury thought back through everything he'd learned about Section 31's operations. Sloan's personality. The organization's methodologies. Their tendency towards symbolic gestures and psychological manipulation. Regula, he said finally. Station Regula was the site of the Genesis Project. A Federation research initiative that created a device capable of terraforming planets. It also became a weapon that destroyed an entire moon. Section 31 operates in symbols and precedents. They're using Regula to send a message: brilliant Federation science can become devastating weaponry when necessary. Sisko nodded slowly. Helm, set course for Regula. Maximum warp. And send a coded transmission to Commander Tomalak. If he's interested in preventing Section 31 from starting a biological war that would inevitably spread to Romulan space, he'll want to join us. As the Defiant adjusted course, Fury found himself standing beside Odo, who had been silently observing the entire exchange. You were right about Section 31, Odo said quietly. They're more dangerous than I anticipated. And more desperate. Desperate people make mistakes, Fury replied. That's what we're counting on. And if they don't make mistakes? If Sloan is as good as he thinks he is? Fury's smile was grim. Then we improvise. It's what I do best. Station Regula floated in the void like a skeletal monument to scientific ambition gone wrong. The facility had been abandoned for years after the Genesis Project's catastrophic conclusion, a reminder that even the Federation's brightest minds could create horrors when they stopped asking whether they should do something and focused only on whether they could. The Defiant approached cautiously, sensors sweeping for active systems or defensive measures. 2 Romulan warbuds flanked them. Commander Tomalak had accepted Sisko's invitation with surprising alacrity. The Romulans wanted Section 31 stopped as much as the Federation did, though for entirely different reasons. Scanning the station, Dax reported from her science console. I'm detecting active life support in Sections 3 through 7. Power signatures consistent with biological containment equipment and advanced computing systems. Someone's definitely been using this facility. Life signs? Sisko asked. 12 humanoids. All human biosignatures. Dax paused, her expression troubled. Benjamin, I'm also detecting something else. Energy readings that match the morphogenic virus specifications from Captain Reeves' data. They're not just researching these weapons here, they're preparing them for deployment. Fury moved to stand beside Sisko's command chair. How long until those weapons are ready to deploy? Based on the energy consumption patterns, I'd estimate 6 to 8 hours. They're running final cultivation cycles now. Then we're out of time, Fury said. We board that station, secure the bioweapons, and shut down Section 31's operation. No negotiations, no second chances. Worf's tactical assessment was blunt. 12 operatives against our away team. Acceptable odds. But Section 31 personnel are highly trained intelligence operatives. They will have prepared defensive measures and contingency protocols. Then we'll have to be smarter than they are, Sisko said. Sisko said. He opened a channel to the Romulans. Commander Tomalak, we're preparing to board the station. I'm requesting Romulan security personnel to join our away team. Tomalak's image appeared on the view screen, his expression calculating. You want Romulan soldiers fighting alongside Starfleet officers against a human intelligence organization. An interesting proposition, Captain Sisko. What assurances can you provide that this isn't a trap? The same assurance you gave me at the Fleming, mutual interest. Section 31 tried to frame your empire for an attack they committed. That makes this personal for both of us. Tomalak considered this, then nodded slowly. Very well. I will send Centurion Varel and 4 of my best security troops. But understand, if this is a deception, the consequences will be severe. Understood. Sisko out. He turned to his senior staff. Kira, Worf, Odo, you're with me. Mr. Fury, I assume you're joining us. Wouldn't miss it, Fury said. Dax looked up from her console. Benjamin, I should come too. If we're dealing with biological weapons, you'll need someone who can identify and safely neutralize them. Agreed. Chief O'Brien, you have the Defiant. If this goes wrong, pull back and transmit all of our data to Starfleet Command. O'Brien's voice was grim over the comm, Sir. Good hunting. The away team materialized in a darkened corridor deep within Regula Station. Emergency lighting cast everything in crimson shadows. The air smelled sterile, recycled too many times through failing filtration systems. Romulan troops materialized moments later, led by Centurion Varel, a woman whose bearing suggested decades of combat experience. This facility is structurally compromised, Varel observed, her disruptor rifle already raised. Multiple hull breaches, failing life support. Whoever is using this station does not intend to remain long. Because they're completing their mission and then destroying all evidence, Fury said, checking his borrowed phaser. Classic scorched earth protocol. We need to move fast. Odo consulted his tricorder. Life signs are concentrated in what used to be the main biological research laboratory. 2 decks above our position. I'm also detecting automated defense systems, likely Section 31 modifications to standard Starfleet security protocols. Can you bypass them? Sisko asked. Given time, yes. But, Odo's features shifted with concern. We don't have time. The bioweapons are showing increased energy signatures. Whatever final cultivation process they're running is accelerating. Worf's tactical mind immediately grasped the implications. They detected our approach. They are rushing to complete deployment before we can stop them. Then we go in loud and fast, Fury said. Forget stealth. Overwhelm their defenses through speed and aggression. Kira looked skeptical. That's not how Starfleet operates. It's how Section 31 doesn't expect you to operate. That gives us tactical surprise. Fury turned to Sisko. Commander, in my experience, intelligence operatives are used to controlling situations through information and planning. When you force them into immediate violent action, they make mistakes. We use that. Sisko made his decision. We proceed with Mr. Fury's approach. Phasers set to heavy stun, we want prisoners, not bodies. Move out. The combined Federation-Romulan team moved through the station corridors with disciplined speed. Twice they encountered automated defense turrets that Worf and Varel destroyed with precise phaser and disruptor fire. Once they found a corridor completely sealed by emergency bulkheads that Odo liquefied through, reforming on the other side to unlock the access controls. They reached the biological research laboratory to find its entrance guarded by 2 Section 31 operatives in tactical gear. The guards raised their weapons, but before they could fire, Fury had already moved, closing distance with shocking speed, disarming one operative with a precise strike to the wrist, and stunning the second with a phaser blast. Still got it, Fury muttered, checking the unconscious operatives for additional weapons. The laboratory doors opened, and the away team entered what looked like a nightmare vision of Federation science. Row upon row of biological containment units lined the walls, each holding different colored liquids that pulsed with energy. Computer terminals displayed genetic sequences and deployment calculations. And in the center of it all stood Luther Sloan, flanked by 8 Section 31 operatives who raised their weapons the moment the away team entered. Commander Sisko, Sloan said calmly, as if they'd met for a scheduled conference. And you brought Romulan friends. How progressive of you. It's over, Sloan, Sisko said, his phaser aimed directly at the intelligence operative. Shut down your operation and surrender. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit genocide, violations of Federation law, and crimes against sentient beings. Sloan smiled. I'm afraid I can't do that, Commander. We're 6 hours away from ending this war. 6 hours from saving billions of lives that would otherwise be lost to Dominion conquest. You're asking me to sacrifice the entire Alpha Quadrant for the sake of legal procedures and moral posturing. You're asking us to accept genocide as military strategy, Kira countered. That's not victory. That's becoming exactly what we're fighting against. The Dominion commits genocide as policy, Sloan replied. They engineered the Jem'Hadar as slave soldiers and the Vorta as disposable administrators. They've conquered and sterilized dozens of species in the Gamma Quadrant. What we're doing is self-defense on a strategic scale. Fury stepped forward, his voice cutting through the moral debate. Sloan, I've used every justification you're using right now. I've authorized preemptive strikes against potential threats. I've sacrificed individuals to save populations. And you know what I learned. Once you convince yourself that some lives are expendable for the greater good, eventually everyone becomes expendable. Including the people you're trying to save. Philosophy from a career spy, Sloan said dismissively. How refreshing. Not philosophy. Experience. Fury moved closer, ignoring the weapons trained on him. I watched S.H.I.E.L.D. become compromised because we stopped questioning our methods. We told ourselves we were protecting people, but we were really protecting our own authority. You're doing the same thing. This isn't about ending the war. This is about proving Section 31 is necessary. Believe what you want, Sloan said. But you're not stopping this deployment. Dax had been analyzing the containment units while the confrontation unfolded. Now she spoke up, her voice urgent. Benjamin, these bioweapons are designed for delivery via subspace warheads. Once deployed, they'll spread through Dominion-held space within 72 hours. Mortality rate for Founders, 98%. Jem'Hadar, 85%. Vorta, 92%. We're talking about the deaths of hundreds of billions of sentient beings. Sentient beings engineered for conquest, Sloan countered. The Founders created the Jem'Hadar and Vorta as weapons. We're neutralizing those weapons. The Jem'Hadar didn't choose to be soldiers, Fury said quietly. They were born into it. Genetically programmed to serve and die. Just like the Vorta were engineered to be administrators. They're victims of the Founders as much as anyone else. Touching sentiment, Sloan said. But irrelevant. We launch in 4 hours. Nothing you can do will prevent that. Worf raised his phaser. We can destroy this facility and everyone in it. And trigger the automatic deployment sequence, Sloan replied smoothly. Did you think we wouldn't prepare for direct assault? The containment units are linked to deadman switches. Destroy them or kill us, and the bioweapons deploy immediately from secondary locations you'll never find in time. Varel spoke for the first time, her Romulan accent thick with contempt. You would weaponize your own deaths. Such cowardice disguised as strategy. Such pragmatism disguised as honor, Sloan countered. The Romulan Tal Shiar has used similar tactics for centuries. Don't pretend moral superiority, Centurion. Enough, Sisko said, his command voice cutting through the escalating tension. Sloan, you're right about one thing, you've prepared for direct assault. But have you prepared for negotiation? Sloan's eyes narrowed. What are you proposing? A delay. Give us 72 hours to present your evidence to the Federation Council and Starfleet Command. Let them see the full scope of the Dominion threat and make an informed decision about bioweapons deployment. Absolutely not, Sloan said immediately. Section 31 operates outside political oversight precisely because politicians can't make hard decisions fast enough. By the time the Council debates, deliberates, and forms committees, the Dominion will have conquered another dozen star systems. Fury had been watching Sloane carefully throughout the exchange, reading micro-expressions and body language. Something was wrong. Sloane was too confident, too willing to engage in conversation. He was stalling. "The bioweapons aren't here," Fury said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. "What?" Sisko asked. Fury gestured to the containment units. "These are decoys. Probably functional enough to fool sensors, but not the actual deployment payload. Sloane knew we'd track him to Regula. He wanted us here, keeping us busy, while the real bioweapons are being deployed somewhere else." Sloane's smile confirmed Fury's assessment. "Very good, Mr. Fury. I underestimated you twice now. I won't make that mistake again. Where are the real weapons?" Sisko demanded. "Irrelevant. They're already in position. Deployment sequence has already begun. Even if you kill me, even if you destroy this facility, the weapons will deploy on schedule." Dax frantically worked her tricorder. "He's right. I'm detecting subspace transmissions from this facility to multiple locations throughout the sector. Encrypted communications using Section 31 protocols I can't break." "How long until deployment?" Fury asked. "Based on the transmission patterns, I'd estimate 90 minutes. Odo's features hardened with determination. Then we have 90 minutes to find those weapons and stop the deployment." "You'll never find them in time," Sloane said. "We've had months to prepare. Multiple redundant deployment sites, automated systems, fail-safe protocols. Section 31 doesn't fail, Commander Sisko. We succeed by being more thorough than everyone else." Fury studied Sloane's expression, the absolute certainty, the complete confidence. It reminded him of himself 10 years ago, back when he still believed S.H.I.E.L.D. could solve any problem through superior intelligence and ruthless efficiency. That certainty had been his greatest weakness. And it was about to be Sloane's. "You're lying," Fury said quietly. "I assure you. Not about the deployment. About the redundancy." Fury moved closer, his eye locked on Sloane's face. "You said multiple deployment sites, automated systems, fail-safe protocols. That's standard operating procedure for any covert operation. But Section 31 has been compromised. Captain Reeves' data exposed your entire bioweapons program. You've been forced to accelerate your timeline, scramble your operations, work faster than your protocols allow." Sloane's expression flickered, just for a moment, but Fury caught it. "In that situation, you don't have time for elaborate redundancy. You have one deployment site, one backup system, and you're desperately hoping we don't figure out where it is before your weapons launch." Fury smiled coldly. "So where is it, Sloane? What's the one place in this sector where you could hide a bioweapons deployment system that we wouldn't think to look?" Sloane was silent. Varel raised her disruptor. "Answer the question, or I will make you answer." "Romulan torture techniques won't work," Sloane said. "I've been conditioned to resist interrogation methods you can't imagine." "I'm not talking about torture," Fury said. "I'm talking about psychology. You're a career intelligence operative. You've spent decades building Section 31 into the most effective covert organization in Federation history. That kind of success requires ego, the belief that you're smarter than everyone else, that you see angles nobody else sees. Your point?" "My point is that ego makes people predictable. You wouldn't hide the bioweapons somewhere random. You'd hide them somewhere symbolic. Somewhere that sends a message about Section 31's capabilities and reach." Fury's mind raced through everything he'd learned about the Dominion War's strategic geography. Deep Space Nine. The shock on Sloane's face confirmed it. "You hid the deployment system on DS9, Sisko said, his voice filled with barely controlled fury. On my station. Under my command. Strategically optimal location, Sloane said, recovering his composure. Positioned at the mouth of the Bajoran wormhole, giving direct access to Dominion space. Heavily fortified, so unlikely to be attacked or searched. And filled with Starfleet personnel who follow orders without questioning underlying motivations. Kira's voice shook with rage. You're using Bajoran station to commit genocide. I'm using available resources to win a war, Sloane corrected. And you still can't stop it. Even if you return to DS9 immediately, you won't find the deployment system in time. It's hidden in a location you'll never suspect, activated by automated protocols you can't override. Fury turned to Sisko. Get us back to DS9. Now. What about Sloane and his operatives? Worf asked. Restrain them, destroy the decoy bioweapons, leave a Romulan security detail to ensure they don't escape. Fury was already moving toward the exit. We have 90 minutes to find and disable whatever Section 31 planted on Deep Space Nine. Every second we waste here is a second closer to deployment. Sisko made the call. Varel, your people guard these prisoners. We're returning to the station. Agreed, Varel said. But understand, Captain Sisko, if these bioweapons deploy, the Romulan Empire will hold the Federation responsible. This will be considered an act of war. Noted. Sisko tapped his comm badge. Sisko to Defiant. 8 to beam directly to the bridge. Emergency transport. As they dematerialized, Fury caught one last glimpse of Sloane's face, still confident, still certain that Section 31 would succeed. That certainty was about to be tested. And Nick Fury was very good at breaking things that seemed unbreakable. The Defiant streaked through space at maximum warp, pushing its engines beyond recommended safety margins. In the captain's ready room, Sisko, Fury, Dax, Odo, and Kira huddled over tactical displays, racing against a clock that was ticking down toward catastrophe. 57 minutes until projected deployment, Dax reported, her fingers flying across her PADD. I've analyzed every sensor log from DS9 for the past 6 months, looking for anomalous activity that could indicate Section 31 infiltration. Anything? Sisko asked. Too much. Deep Space Nine sees thousands of visitors monthly. Traders, refugees, military personnel, diplomats. Any one of them could have been a Section 31 operative planting the deployment system. Fury leaned over the tactical display, his mind working through operational logic. Sloane said the system was hidden somewhere we'd never suspect. Think like an intelligence operative. Where would you hide a bioweapons deployment mechanism on a station with extensive security protocols and constant Starfleet oversight? Cargo bays are too obvious, Odo said. We conduct random inspections regularly. Weapons storage is under constant guard. Critical systems like the reactor core or life support are monitored around the clock. What about the docking ring? Kira suggested. Ships come and go constantly. A device could be hidden in one of the docking ports, disguised as standard equipment. Dax shook her head. I've already cross-referenced every docking manifesto. Nothing matches the energy signature we'd expect from a subspace warhead delivery system. Fury's eye narrowed as a thought occurred to him. The Bajoran Temple. Where's the temple located on DS9? Everyone looked at him. The temple is a sacred space, Kira said defensively. Section 31 wouldn't dare violate. Exactly, Fury interrupted. It's the one place on the station where security presence is minimal out of respect for Bajoran religious practices. Where Starfleet personnel don't casually enter. Where scanning equipment is used sparingly to avoid offending the Prophet's faithful. From an operational standpoint, it's perfect. Sisko's expression darkened. The temple was renovated 4 months ago. New meditation chambers were installed to accommodate increasing numbers of Bajoran pilgrims. The work was done by civilian contractors vetted by Bajoran authorities, not Starfleet security. "Let me guess," Fury said. "The contractors came and went without extensive security screening because questioning Bajoran religious workers would be diplomatically sensitive." "It's worse than that," Odo admitted. "I recommended additional security measures during the renovation, but Videk Porta insisted it would be sacrilegious to treat the temple like a military installation. Commander Sisko agreed to limit our involvement out of respect for Bajoran sovereignty. Which Section 31 anticipated and exploited," Fury concluded. "They hid their deployment system inside the temple, knowing your respect for Bajoran beliefs would create a security blind spot." Kira's voice was tight with controlled fury. "Using our faith as cover for genocide. That's beyond contempt. That's intelligence work," Fury said flatly. "Find the weakness, cultural, psychological, procedural, and exploit it. No sentiment, no hesitation. Just cold operational efficiency." Sisko tapped his comm badge. Sisko to DS9. "Chief O'Brien, I need you to run a deep scan of the Bajoran temple. Look for any technology that doesn't belong there, power sources, transmission equipment, anything that post-dates the renovation." O'Brien's voice crackled back, "Sir, scanning the temple will require shutting down its privacy shielding. Videk Porta won't." "Chief, I don't care what the Videk says. This is a security emergency. Scan the temple now." "That's an order." "Aye, sir." 30 seconds of silence followed, seconds that felt like hours. Then O'Brien's voice returned, tense and urgent. "Commander, you were right. I'm detecting a sophisticated subspace transmission device hidden inside the new meditation chamber. It's shielded with Federation technology but modified with components I've never seen before. Power signature matches the bioweapons deployment specifications from Captain Reeves' data. Can you disable it?" Sisko demanded. "Not remotely. The device has multiple fail-safe protocols. Any attempt to deactivate it from ops will trigger immediate deployment. Someone needs to physically access the device and manually override its systems." "How long until we reach the station?" Fury asked. 23 minutes at current speed, Dax replied. Fury did the math instantly. "That gives us 34 minutes to find the device, access its control systems, and disable it before deployment. Tight, but workable. Unless there are additional security measures we haven't detected," Odo said. "Section 31 doesn't leave their operations vulnerable to single points of failure. Then we prepare for complications." Fury turned to Sisko. "Commander, I need everything you know about Section 31's operational tradecraft. Do they use biometric locks? Encryption keys? Deadman switches tied to specific operatives?" "All of the above," Sisko said grimly. "When we've encountered Section 31 technology before, it's been protected by adaptive security systems that reconfigure themselves when tampered with. Standard Starfleet protocols are ineffective. Good thing I'm not Starfleet." Fury's mind was already formulating approaches, running through scenarios, preparing contingencies. "Dax, can you analyze the device's transmission patterns? I need to know if it's communicating with anyone." Dax worked her console. "Yes. The device is receiving encrypted status updates from an unknown source. Transmission origin is, aboard DS9. Someone on the station is monitoring the deployment system in real time." "Another Section 31 operative," Kira said. "Still embedded in station personnel. Or someone we already know," Odo suggested darkly. "Section 31 recruits from within Starfleet. It could be anyone, officers we've worked with for years, civilians we trust, even Bajoran personnel." Fury shook his head. "Doesn't matter who it is right now. What matters is they're watching, which means they'll know the moment we try to disable the device. They'll have prepared for that scenario. Then what do you suggest? Cisco asked. We use their surveillance against them. Make them think we're doing one thing while we're actually doing something else. Classic misdirection. Before Cisco could respond, the comm system erupted with alarms. O'Brien to Commander Cisco. We have a situation. 3 of our docking pylons just lost containment. Atmosphere is venting into space. Emergency bulkheads are sealing automatically, but we've got civilians trapped in the affected sections. Cisco's command instincts kicked in immediately. Evacuate those sections. Deploy rescue teams. How many people are we talking about? Approximately 40 civilians and 12 Starfleet personnel. We're working on it, but, O'Brien paused, then continued with grim realization. Sir, this isn't a system failure. Someone sabotaged the environmental controls. This is deliberate. Fury and Cisco locked eyes, understanding passing between them instantly. Section 31's embedded operative, Fury said. They're creating a crisis to distract us from the bioweapons deployment. We respond to the emergency, we run out of time to disable the device. Kira slammed her fist on the table. We can't ignore people dying. We also can't let bioweapons deploy that will kill billions, Fury countered. This is exactly the choice Section 31 wants us to make, save the 40 people we can see or save the billions we can't. There has to be another way, Cisco said, his voice strained with the weight of command decisions no officer should have to make. There is, Fury said. We split our focus. Your crew handles the evacuation. I handle the bioweapons. You can't disable advanced Federation technology by yourself, Dax objected. Watch me. Fury stood, his decision made. Commander, trust me to do what I do best, improvise, adapt, and break things that aren't supposed to be breakable. You focus on saving your people. I'll focus on saving everyone else. Cisco studied Fury for a long moment, weighing trust against uncertainty, desperation against protocol. Finally, he nodded. Do it. But Fury, if you can't disable that device, you destroy it. Even if it means triggering early deployment. Understood. Better to fail trying than to succeed at nothing. The Defiant dropped out of warp, Deep Space Nine appearing on the view screen. The station showed visible damage, venting atmosphere creating crystalline clouds in the vacuum, emergency lights flashing across multiple sections. Transporter room, lock onto Fury's comm badge and beam him directly to the Bajoran temple, Cisco ordered. Everyone else, prepare for emergency medical and rescue operations. As the team dispersed, Dax caught Fury's arm. Nick, Section 31's technology is designed to be tamper-proof. If you trigger the wrong failsafe, I'll either save billions of lives or die trying. Either way, it's better than sitting around wondering what if. He squeezed her shoulder briefly. Do me a favor, Dax. If this goes wrong, make sure Sloan knows I beat him. Egos all guys like us have left. Before she could respond, Fury was gone. Transported directly into the heart of DS9's most sacred space. The Bajoran temple was beautiful, all soft lighting, curved architecture, and an atmosphere of profound peace that felt almost alien compared to the rest of the station's utilitarian design. Fury materialized in the new meditation chamber, his phaser drawn, his senses on high alert. The Section 31 device was immediately obvious once you knew to look for it. Disguised as a ceremonial altar piece, it pulsed with barely perceptible energy. Federation technology wrapped in Bajoran aesthetic, hidden in plain sight through cultural camouflage. Fury approached cautiously, scanning the device with his tricorder. The readout confirmed his worst suspicions: biometric locks, adaptive encryption, anti-tamper protocols that would trigger deployment if the wrong access sequence was attempted. And a timer, 28 minutes until automated deployment. Okay, Sloan, Fury muttered to himself. Let's see how smart you really are. He pulled a small toolkit from his jacket, improvised equipment he'd assembled from Defiance engineering supplies. In his S.H.I.E.L.D. days, he'd dismantled alien technology, Hydra weapons, and Chitauri devices. This was just another puzzle, albeit one with apocalyptic consequences for failure. First step, identify the device's control architecture. Fury carefully removed the ceremonial covering, revealing the actual mechanism beneath. A compact subspace transmitter linked to what appeared to be biological containment pods. The bioweapons themselves were here, ready for deployment through the wormhole directly into Dominion space. Second step, locate the primary failsafe. Section 31 would have installed multiple layers of security, but there was always a central control node, the component that coordinated all other systems. Find it, disable it, and the entire device became inert. Fury's tricorder identified 3 possible central nodes, each protected by different security protocols. He had time to attempt disabling one. Maybe 2 if he worked fast. Choose wrong, and the device would deploy immediately. Behind him, footsteps echoed in the temple. Fury spun, phaser raised, finding himself face to face with Lieutenant Vilix, one of DS9's operations officers, a competent Starfleet engineer who'd been aboard the station for 2 years. Step away from the device, Mr. Fury, Vilix said calmly, his own phaser trained on Fury's chest. Let me guess, Fury said. Section 31. Since the Academy. I've been waiting for this mission my entire career. Vilix's expression showed no doubt, no hesitation. The Dominion is an extinction-level threat to the Federation. These bioweapons are our only guaranteed path to victory. I won't let you stop that. You'll kill billions of sentient beings. I'll save trillions of Federation citizens. The math is simple. Fury kept his phaser trained on Vilix but didn't fire. I used to think like you. Calculated lives like they were resources on a spreadsheet. Justified terrible actions by pointing at worse alternatives. You know what that kind of thinking cost me? Your career. Your reputation. Vilix's smile was cold. Small prices to pay for doing what's necessary. My humanity, Fury said quietly. The part of me that could sleep at night knowing I'd done the right thing instead of just the expedient thing. You deploy these weapons, you'll win the war. But you'll lose yourself in the process. Philosophical debate is wasting time. Step away from the device, or I will shoot you. Fury's mind raced through tactical options. He was outgunned, outmaneuvered, and running out of time. Vilix was a trained Starfleet officer, young and fast. Fury was older, injured from dimensional travel, and operating with unfamiliar Federation technology. He needed an advantage Vilix didn't expect. Tell me something, Lieutenant, Fury said, his tone conversational. How does Section 31 recruit people like you? Do they appeal to patriotism? Fear? Or do they just find people who want to feel special, like they're part of something bigger than themselves? What are you? Because I've seen it before. Hydra operated inside S.H.I.E.L.D. for decades, recruiting agents who thought they were serving a higher purpose. They believed so completely in their mission that they never questioned whether that mission was right. Just whether it would succeed. Vilix's weapon hand wavered slightly. I'm nothing like S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm protecting the Federation. So were they. Protecting their version of order, their idea of security. Convinced that anyone who disagreed was either naive or treasonous. Fury took a small step forward. Here's what nobody tells you about organizations like Section 31 and S.H.I.E.L.D. They're not protecting civilization. They're protecting their own relevance. Every threat they neutralize, they create 2 more to justify their existence. You're not a hero, Lieutenant. You're a tool being used by people who've convinced you that tools are all humanity needs. Enough. Vilix's phaser was shaking now. You don't understand what's at stake. I understand better than you think. I've been where you are, standing at the moment where you have to choose between following orders and doing what's right. I chose wrong. Don't make the same mistake. For a moment, Fury thought he'd gotten through. Vilex's expression showed doubt, confusion, the beginning of moral clarity breaking through ideological programming. Then the temple's communication system activated. Lieutenant Vilex, this is Sloan. The intelligence operative's voice was calm and authoritative. I'm monitoring your situation. Mr. Fury is attempting to manipulate you emotionally. Do not engage in conversation. Neutralize the threat and protect the deployment system. That's an order. Vilex's doubt evaporated, replaced by cold certainty. His weapon steadied. Fury saw what was coming and moved. The phaser blast missed by centimeters as Fury dove behind a ceremonial brazier. He returned fire, his shot clipping Vilex's shoulder and sending the lieutenant stumbling backward. 15 minutes to deployment, Sloan's voice announced over the comm, the device is now locked. Even if you disable it, secondary systems will complete the launch sequence. You've lost, Mr. Fury. Fury ignored Sloan, focusing on Vilex. The lieutenant was wounded but still armed, taking cover behind the altar. This doesn't have to end with one of us dead, Fury called out. Put down the weapon. Help me stop this. I can't, Vilex replied, and for the first time, his voice carried genuine emotion. I've dedicated my entire life to Section 31's mission. If I abandon that now, what was it all for? A mistake you can learn from, Fury said. Better than a mistake you die defending. Vilex stood, weapon raised, not in aggression, but resignation. I'm sorry, Mr. Fury. I genuinely am. But I've made my choice. He fired. Fury fired simultaneously. Both men went down. Fury's shot caught Vilex in the chest, heavy stun, not lethal. The lieutenant collapsed, unconscious but alive. Vilex's shot had been less precise, a glancing hit that sent burning pain through Fury's left side. Not fatal, but debilitating. Fury dragged himself to his feet, his hand pressed against the wound. Blood seeped through his fingers. The tricorder at his belt was destroyed, shot through during the exchange. 13 minutes. He stumbled to the device, his vision swimming with pain. Without the tricorder, he couldn't identify which component was the central control node. He'd have to guess. 3 possible targets. 1 chance. Choose wrong, and billions died. Choose right, and maybe, just maybe, he'd prove that one person could make a difference against impossible odds. Nick Fury had spent his entire career dealing with impossible odds. This was just one more. His hand moved toward the first component, then hesitated. Something Sloan had said earlier echoed in his mind, we succeed by being more thorough than everyone else. Thorough meant redundancy. Backup systems. Multiple failsafes. Which meant the obvious central control nodes were probably decoys. Fury pulled his hand back and looked at the device with fresh eyes. Not as an engineer trying to disable it, but as an intelligence operative trying to understand the mind that built it. Where would Sloan hide the real control mechanism? And in that moment, Fury understood. He smiled, a cold, pained smile. Gotcha, he whispered. Fury's hand moved past the 3 obvious control nodes and reached instead for the device's ceremonial Bajoran covering, the ornate metallic lattice that disguised the weapon as a religious artifact. His fingers found an almost imperceptible seam along the base, exactly where Bajoran artisans would never place a structural join. Hiding in plain sight, Fury muttered, blood still seeping from his wound. Not inside the technology. Inside the disguise. He pried the lattice free, revealing a small isolinear chip embedded in the decorative framework. It was elegant in its simplicity, the actual control mechanism for the entire deployment system hidden in the one component everyone would dismiss as purely aesthetic. 9 minutes. Fury's hands shook as he extracted the chip, his vision blurring from blood loss. The device's timer flickered once, a brief moment of uncertainty in its countdown, then stabilized. The chip was out, but the automated deployment sequence continued running. Damn it. Fury examined the chip, searching for access ports or interface connections. There were none. It was a read-only device, programmed with deployment instructions and sealed against tampering. Sloane's voice crackled over the temple's comm system. Impressive, Mr. Fury. You found the primary control chip faster than I anticipated. But as you've discovered, removing it doesn't stop the deployment. It merely removes your ability to interface with the system. You can't disable what you can't access. Fury pressed his hand harder against his wound, trying to slow the bleeding. There's always a way, Sloane. Every system has vulnerabilities. Not this one. I designed it personally over 6 months, accounting for every possible attack vector. Electrical disruption triggers immediate deployment. Physical destruction triggers deployment. Attempted interface hacking triggers deployment. Even removing the device from the temple triggers deployment. It's keyed to this specific location's gravitational and electromagnetic signature. You sound pretty confident for someone sitting in a Romulan detention cell. Because I've already won. In 7 minutes, the bioweapons deploy through the wormhole into Dominion space. The war ends within a week. Billions of Federation citizens who would have died in prolonged conflict will live. You think you're the hero of this story, but history will remember me as the one who made the hard choice you were too weak to make. Fury looked at the device, at the biological containment pods pulsing with their deadly cargo. Morphogenic viruses. Hemorrhagic pathogens. Neural toxins. All targeted at specific species with terrifying precision. In his S.H.I.E.L.D. days, he'd authorized operations not dissimilar to this. Preemptive strikes. Targeted eliminations. Strategic deployments of technology that walked ethical lines. He'd convinced himself those actions were necessary, that the alternative was worse. He'd been wrong then. He wouldn't be wrong now. Fury to Cisco, he said, tapping his comm badge with a blood-slick hand. I found the control mechanism, but I can't disable it remotely. Sloane designed the system to be tamper-proof. Any direct intervention triggers immediate deployment. Cisco's voice was strained. Clearly dealing with the ongoing evacuation crisis. Can you destroy it? Same result. Deployment triggers. Then what are our options? Fury's mind raced through possibilities, each more desperate than the last. Then a thought occurred, dangerous, unprecedented, but potentially viable. The wormhole. What happens to subspace transmissions that enter the wormhole when the prophets decide to intervene? There was a pause. Then Dax's voice replaced Cisco's. The prophets exist outside linear time. They've demonstrated the ability to manipulate temporal flow within the wormhole, removing objects or people from the time stream entirely. Are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that if the bioweapons deploy into the wormhole at the exact moment the prophets intervene, the weapons might be removed from our timeline before they reach Dominion space. That's an enormous assumption, Dax said. We can't control when or if the prophets will intervene. They act according to motivations we don't understand. Then I guess I'm about to pray. Fury grabbed the device, ignoring the immediate alarm that sounded, warning of unauthorized movement. How long until this thing deploys from being moved? 90 seconds, Dax said urgently. Fury, what are you doing? Something stupid that might work. Fury staggered toward the temple's exit, the bioweapons device clutched in his arms. Each step sent fresh pain through his wounded side, but he forced himself forward. Fury, stop. Cisco's voice was commanding. If you're planning what I think you're planning. Then you know there's no alternative. This device can't be disabled, can't be destroyed, and will deploy in 6 minutes no matter what we do. But if I can get it into the wormhole before deployment, maybe the prophets will intervene. And if they don't? Kira's voice, sharp with concern and something else. Hope, maybe. Then I die stopping the deployment from reaching Dominion space. Device detonates in the wormhole, releases its payload into subspace rather than real space. Won't be pretty, but it's better than genocide. You're talking about a suicide mission, Odo said flatly. I'm talking about making a choice that actually means something. Fury reached the temple entrance, looking out at the promenade. Station personnel rushed past, focused on evacuation efforts. None of them knew that their survival, and the survival of billions across the Alpha Quadrant, depended on what happened in the next 5 minutes. Fury to Defiant. I need a runabout prepped for immediate launch. Autopilot programmed for direct trajectory into the wormhole. No questions, no delays. O'Brien's voice crackled back, Sir, the Rio Grande is ready. But if you're taking a runabout into the wormhole with unstable bioweapons. I know the risks, Chief. Just get it ready. Fury moved through the promenade, trying not to attract attention. The device in his arms looked like religious artifacts being transported. Nothing unusual on a station with significant Bajoran population. 60 seconds until movement triggered deployment. He reached the docking ring, stumbling into the Rio Grande's airlock. The runabout systems were already active, autopilot programmed for the wormhole. O'Brien had followed instructions without hesitation. Fury sealed the airlock and collapsed into the pilot's seat, setting the device on the console beside him. Blood loss was making everything feel distant, dreamlike. He initiated launch sequence with hands that barely responded to his commands. Fury, wait. Kira's voice over the comm, urgent but controlled. Let me speak with the prophets. They've communicated with the emissary before. If I petition them. No time. The runabout launched, its thrusters pushing away from DS-9 toward the wormhole. Besides, I'm not exactly a believer. If the prophets are going to intervene, they'll do it because it serves their purposes, not because I asked nicely. 30 seconds. The wormhole loomed ahead, that beautiful, terrifying vortex of blue and white energy that connected 2 quadrants of the galaxy. Fury had seen wonders in his life, alien invasions, dimensional rifts, gods walking among humans. But there was something profound about the wormhole, a reminder that the universe was vaster and stranger than any human could comprehend. Fury. Sisko's voice, quiet but intense. The prophets have spoken to me before about linear existence and the importance of individual choices. They might not intervene. This might be your choice alone to make. Then I'm making it. The runabout accelerated toward the wormhole's event horizon. Commander, I've spent my entire career making choices that cost other people their lives. This is the first time I get to make a choice that only costs me. Feels right, somehow. 10 seconds until deployment. The wormhole began opening, its event horizon expanding in response to the runabout's approach. Fury watched the swirling energies with something approaching peace. He'd lived longer than most men in his profession had any right to. He'd seen things, done things, survived things that should have killed him decades ago. If this was how it ended, stopping a genocide, saving billions of lives, proving that one person could still make a difference against impossible odds, then maybe it was a good ending after all. 5 seconds. The runabout entered the wormhole. Reality twisted. Space and time losing coherent meaning as the vessel transitioned into whatever dimensional physics governed the celestial temple. Fury felt the presence of something vast and incomprehensible, beings existing outside linear time, observing his actions with alien curiosity. The prophets. 3 seconds. Listen, Fury said aloud, knowing somehow that they could hear him. I don't know if you care about linear beings like me. I don't know if our choices matter to entities that exist outside time. But I'm asking, begging, for you to stop these weapons from deploying. Not for me. For all the people who deserve better than genocide. 2 seconds. The device activated. 1 second. The wormhole responded. Not with words or visions or the symbolic communications the prophets typically used. This was something more fundamental, a direct alteration of reality itself. The bioweapons began releasing their deadly payload, viral particles spreading through the runabout's interior. And then they stopped. Frozen in mid-deployment, suspended in a moment that stretched impossibly long. Fury watched viral particles hover in the air like crystalline stars, beautiful and terrible and completely motionless. The prophet's presence intensified, no longer merely observing but actively engaging. Fury felt their attention focus on him with crushing intensity. You are the Fury. Not words, but concepts impressed directly into his mind. The one who crossed from another existence. Yeah, Fury managed, his consciousness fragmenting under the weight of communication with beings that existed across all possible moments simultaneously. That's me. You carry violence. You have caused suffering. You have made choices that damaged the pattern. I know. I've done terrible things. But I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to make a choice that saves lives instead of costing them. Why? The question contained multitudes. Not just asking for his motivation, but examining the fundamental nature of redemption, growth, and the possibility that beings trapped in linear time could change. Because I have to believe people can be better than their worst moments. I have to believe that making one right choice matters, even when everything else was wrong. The prophets were silent, or rather, their communication shifted to something Fury couldn't interpret. He felt them examining the bioweapons, understanding their purpose and implications across all possible timelines. These weapons would end one conflict but create others. They would propagate suffering across time. They violate the pattern. Then help me stop them. We do not intervene in linear matters without purpose. Your species must make its own choices. I'm making mine. I'm choosing to die stopping these weapons from deploying. If that's not enough, if you need more. Fury's voice broke, blood loss and dimensional strain finally overwhelming him. Then I failed. But at least I tried. Another pause. Then. You have chosen sacrifice over survival. This is significant. The Cisco would call this faith. Call it whatever you want. Just stop the deployment. We will remove these weapons from time. They will never deploy. They will never have existed. The pattern will remain intact. The suspended viral particles began dissolving, not destroyed, but unmade. Erased from reality as if they had never been created. The device itself started breaking down into component atoms, each piece vanishing as the prophets rewrote causality. And you, Fury. You exist outside your proper timeline. You do not belong in this existence. Fury felt a moment of panic. Are you sending me back? To my universe? We cannot. The path you traveled is closed. Your universe continues without you. You are alone in this existence. Then what? You must choose. Remain in this timeline, accepting that you can never return. Or we can remove you from time entirely. You would exist in the temple with us, outside linear progression. No beginning. No end. No suffering. It was tempting. To exist outside time, beyond pain and regret and the weight of choices that haunted him. To find peace in eternal observation rather than eternal struggle. But that wasn't who Nick Fury was. I choose to stay. In this timeline. Linear, messy, painful, and real. He managed a weak smile. I'm not done making mistakes yet. And maybe I'm not done making things right either. Then you will live. But understand, your presence here changes the pattern. Your choices will have consequences we cannot predict. Story of my life. The wormhole began releasing him, pushing the runabout back toward normal space. The last thing Fury felt before losing consciousness was the Prophet's final communication. The Fury will be tested. Many times. In many ways. Whether he passes or fails will determine more than his own fate. Then darkness. Fury woke in DS9's infirmary, Bashir hovering over him with medical instruments. "Welcome back," the doctor said with visible relief. "You've been unconscious for 6 hours. Phaser wound, severe blood loss, and something I can't quite explain, residual temporal energy consistent with extended exposure to the wormhole's interior. What exactly happened in there? Saved the universe. Had a conversation with godlike aliens. The usual." Fury tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. The bioweapons? Gone. According to sensor logs, they simply ceased to exist while you were inside the wormhole. The prophets intervened. Bashir helped Fury recline back onto the biobed. "You should rest. You pushed your body well beyond safe operational limits. Can't. Need to talk to Cisco. He's been waiting." Bashir gestured toward the door, where Cisco entered with Kira, Dax, and Odo. "Mr. Fury," Cisco said, his expression complex, respect mixed with concern. "You took an enormous risk. If the prophets hadn't intervened." "They did. That's what matters." Fury looked at each of them. "What about Section 31? Sloan? The embedded operatives?" Commander Tomalak delivered Sloan and his team to Starfleet Command under Romulan diplomatic protest, Kira reported. "There will be hearings, investigations. Section 31's bioweapons program is now public knowledge. The Federation Council is in emergency session. They'll try to bury it," Fury said. "Classify it, claim national security, protect their people." "Perhaps," Cisco said. "But Captain Reeves and her crew are willing to testify. The Romulans are demanding accountability. And Admiral Ross has personally guaranteed a full investigation. Section 31 may survive, but they won't operate with impunity anymore." Fury closed his eye, exhaustion overwhelming him. "It's not enough. But it's something." Dax stepped forward. "Nick, the Prophet spoke with you. That's significant. They don't communicate with non-Bajorans except in the rarest circumstances." "What did they say?" "They said I'm stuck here. My universe, my timeline, the path back is closed. This is home now, whether I like it or not." The room was quiet. Finally, Kira spoke, "Then you're not alone. You have us. This station. The Federation. Whatever happens next, you don't face it by yourself." Fury looked at her, at all of them, and felt something he hadn't experienced in years, belonging. Not the artificial brotherhood of a covert organization held together by necessity and paranoia. Real connection. People who'd earned his trust and given him theirs. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Rest now," Cisco said. "When you're recovered, we'll talk about what comes next. The Dominion War continues. Section 31 may be compromised but not eliminated. And you're a man without a universe, trying to find purpose in someone else's fight." "Not someone else's fight anymore," Fury corrected. "The prophets were pretty clear, I'm here for a reason. Might as well make it count." As the others departed, leaving him to recovery, Fury stared at the ceiling and contemplated his situation. Nicholas Joseph Fury, former director of S.H.I.E.L.D., master spy, strategic genius, now adrift in an alternate universe, wounded, alone, and facing challenges he'd never imagined. And somehow, despite everything, he smiled. Because Nick Fury had never been very good at retirement. And this universe clearly needed someone who understood that sometimes, the only way to protect people was to be willing to sacrifice everything, including yourself. The war was far from over. But for the first time since arriving in this strange new reality, Nick Fury had found something worth fighting for. 3 days after the bioweapons crisis, Nick Fury stood in Deep Space Nine's security office, studying tactical displays with Odo. The changeling had been unusually forthcoming since Fury's return from the wormhole, professional respect between two individuals who understood that security meant making impossible choices. The evacuation crisis was more sophisticated than we initially assessed, Odo explained, pulling up damage reports. Lieutenant Vilix didn't just sabotage environmental controls randomly. He targeted specific sections where Bajoran civilians and off-duty Starfleet personnel congregated, creating maximum chaos with minimal actual casualties. Psychological warfare, Fury observed. Make it look catastrophic enough to pull command staff away from the bioweapons, but not so lethal that it triggers full station lockdown. Smart. Section 31 trains their operatives well. Odo's features shifted with something approaching grudging admiration. Even knowing Vilix was compromised, I'm impressed by his operational discipline. He maintained cover for 2 years, fed us accurate intelligence 99% of the time, and only activated when his mission parameters demanded it. That's the problem with deep cover operatives. They become ghosts, so integrated into their environment that detecting them becomes nearly impossible. Fury zoomed in on personnel records. How many others like Vilix do you think are aboard DS9? Unknown. Possibly none. Possibly dozens. Odo met Fury's gaze. That's what keeps me up at night, the certainty that someone on this station is reporting to organizations I can't identify, pursuing agendas I can't predict. Before Fury could respond, alarms erupted across the security console. Security alert, Odo's computer announced. Unauthorized access detected in Cargo Bay 5. Armed intruders. Multiple biosigns. Fury and Odo exchanged glances and moved immediately, weapons drawn. They were joined in the corridor by Worf and a security team, all converging on Cargo Bay 5. How did intruders get aboard the station without triggering perimeter sensors? Worf demanded. They didn't beam aboard, Odo said, checking his tricorder. They were already here. Someone's been hiding in the cargo systems, waiting. The cargo bay doors opened to reveal a scene that made Fury's tactical instincts scream warnings. 6 figures in dark tactical gear, no insignia, no identifying marks. Surrounded a secured cargo container. They'd already breached the containment field and were attempting to access the container's contents. Freeze! Starfleet security. Worf's voice echoed through the bay. The intruders responded with military precision. 3 opened fire with disruptors, forcing Worf's security team into cover. The other 3 continued working on the container, their movements coordinated and efficient. Fury assessed the situation in seconds. They're not here to fight. They're here to steal. Whatever's in that container, they need it badly enough to risk an assault on a Federation starbase. Cover me, Odo said, then liquefied, his body flowing across the deck plating, moving beneath weapons fire toward the intruders. Fury and Worf provided suppressing fire, their phasers forcing the attackers to divide their attention. Odo reformed behind the container, solidifying into his humanoid shape and grabbing the nearest intruder by the throat. Who are you working for? Odo demanded. The intruder's response was to activate a neural disruptor, a device that would incapacitate anyone with a standard neural structure. But Odo, being a changeling, had no conventional nervous system. The device failed spectacularly. Wrong species, Odo said, then threw the operative across the cargo bay with surprising strength. The remaining intruders realized their mission was compromised. One shouted orders in a language Fury didn't recognize, and they activated emergency transporters, personal evacuation devices that beamed them off the station before Odo could stop them. All except one. The operative Odo had thrown remained unconscious on the deck. Worf immediately moved to secure the prisoner while Fury approached the cargo container they'd been trying to steal. "What's in here that's worth an armed assault?" Fury asked. Odo checked the station's manifest. According to official records, this container holds medical supplies destined for a Bajoran colony. Standard vaccines, diagnostic equipment, nothing valuable enough to justify this level of risk. Then the official records are wrong. Fury examined the container's security lock, Federation technology, but modified with components he didn't recognize. This isn't Starfleet standard. Someone went to considerable effort to hide what's really inside. "Can you open it?" Odo asked. Fury studied the lock mechanism, his fingers tracing connection points and access panels. "Maybe. But whoever sealed this used encryption I've never seen before. Could take hours." "We may not have hours," Worf said, examining the unconscious intruder. "This operative is Nausicaan, a mercenary species. Someone hired them for this operation, which means they'll send reinforcements when this team fails to report. Then we evacuate the cargo bay and let them try again," Fury suggested. "Set up surveillance, wait for the next team, follow them back to whoever's paying." "Too risky," Odo countered. "We don't know what's in that container. It could be weapons, biological agents, classified technology. Leaving it unsecured invites disaster." Before they could decide on a course of action, the unconscious Nausicaan began convulsing. Bashir, who'd arrived with medical personnel, scanned the mercenary urgently. "Neural suicide implant," Bashir said, his voice tight with frustration. "Someone triggered it remotely. He's dying, and there's nothing I can do." The Nausicaan's eyes opened briefly, fixing on Fury with disturbing clarity. He spoke 3 words in heavily accented Federation standard, Obsidian. "Order, rises." Then he died. The cargo bay fell silent. "Obsidian order," Kira said, entering the bay with Sisko. She'd been monitoring the situation from Ops. Cardassian intelligence. But the Obsidian Order was destroyed during the Dominion War. Their entire fleet was annihilated attempting to attack the Founder's homeworld. "Officially destroyed," Fury corrected. "But intelligence organizations don't die easily. They fragment, go underground, rebuild. If remnants of the Obsidian Order survived, they'd be desperate, no resources, no infrastructure, no political support. Desperate enough to risk attacking a Federation starbase for whatever's in that container." Sisko moved to the container, his expression grim. "Chief O'Brien, get up here with your best engineers. I want this container opened safely and its contents identified. Now." 30 minutes later, O'Brien had successfully bypassed the container's security, revealing its contents. What they found made everyone in the cargo bay reassess the situation's severity. "Isolinear data cores," O'Brien reported, carefully extracting crystalline storage devices. "Hundreds of them. And not just any data cores, these use Cardassian military encryption. Based on the manufacturing date codes, these were created during the height of Cardassian occupation of Bajorans." Kira's voice was dangerously quiet. "What kind of data?" Dax had arrived to assist with analysis. She connected one of the cores to a specialized terminal, her expression growing more troubled as she reviewed the contents. "Intelligence files. Surveillance records. Interrogation transcripts." Dax looked up, her eyes meeting Kira's. "These are Obsidian Order archives from the Bajoran occupation. Names of informants, collaborators, resistance members, secret prisons, mass grave locations. Everything the Cardassians collected during 50 years of brutal control. The implications hit everyone simultaneously. If these files became public," Kira said slowly, "they would destroy thousands of lives. Bajorans who collaborated with the occupation to protect their families. Resistance members who were forced to betray their comrades under torture. People who've spent decades rebuilding their lives would be exposed, condemned, possibly executed. They would also provide evidence for war crimes tribunals, Sisko added. Cardassian officers who escaped justice could be identified and prosecuted. Mass graves could be excavated, giving families closure about missing loved ones. A double-edged sword, Fury observed. Truth that could heal or destroy, depending on how it's used. Which raises the question. Who hid this container on DS9, and why? Odo was already working his security console. I'm tracing the container's manifest history. It was delivered to the station 6 weeks ago by a Bajoran freighter. Captain's name, Janelle Tarna. According to his credentials, he's a legitimate merchant with trade routes throughout the sector. Check deeper, Fury said. Legitimate covers are the hardest to penetrate. Odo's investigation took minutes, his changeling ability to process information at accelerated rates proving invaluable. Captain Tarna exists, but his travel patterns are suspicious. He makes regular stops at locations with known Cardassian refugee populations, places where Obsidian Order remnants might be hiding. So the Obsidian Order stored their archives on DS9, Sisko concluded. Probably thinking a Federation-controlled station was the last place anyone would look for Cardassian intelligence files. The Nausicaan mercenaries were hired to retrieve the archives before we discovered them. Then we can expect more attempts, Worf said. Whoever wants these files will escalate their operations. Fury had been studying the data cores, his mind working through implications. This isn't just about recovery. It's about leverage. The Obsidian Order is dead, but individual operatives survived. They scattered, went underground, lost everything. These archives represent power, the ability to blackmail, manipulate, and rebuild their organization using information nobody else possesses. We should destroy them, Kira said firmly. Burn every file, erase every name. The Bajoran people have suffered enough without resurrecting trauma from the occupation. We should preserve them, Dax countered gently. These files contain evidence of crimes that were never prosecuted. Victims deserve justice, even decades later. And what about the victims whose lives will be destroyed when their collaboration is revealed? Kira's voice rose with emotion. My own father made deals with the Cardassians to keep our resistance cell supplied. If his name is in those files, his legacy, everything he fought for, gets reduced to collaborator. That's not justice. That's cruelty. Sisko raised his hand, cutting off the escalating debate. We're not making this decision alone. These archives belong to Bajorans. We'll contact the provisional government and let them determine how to handle this information. That gives whoever wants these files time to make another attempt, Odo warned. Possibly with more resources and greater force. Then we fortify our defenses. Sisko turned to Worf. Maximum security protocols. I want these data cores moved to a secure vault with round-the-clock guard. No one accesses them without my direct authorization. As the team dispersed to implement security measures, Fury found himself approached by Kira. The Bajoran Major's expression was conflicted. Anger and pain warring with her professional discipline. You think I'm wrong, she said. About destroying the files. I think you're protecting your people, Fury replied. That's not wrong. It's human. Or Bajoran, I guess. But you'd preserve the files. I'd want to, Fury admitted. Because information is power, and destroying information because it's uncomfortable sets a dangerous precedent. But I've also seen what happens when intelligence archives get weaponized. S.H.I.E.L.D. kept files on everyone, heroes, villains, politicians, civilians. We told ourselves it was for security. Really, it was for control. Kira studied him carefully. So what would you do? If the decision was yours? Fury was quiet for a long moment. I'd ask myself, who does this information serve? If releasing it helps victims find justice and closure, it's worth the collateral damage. If releasing it only empowers people who want to manipulate and control, it should be destroyed. The problem is figuring out which is which before you make a choice you can't take back. That's not an answer. No, Fury agreed. It's not. But sometimes there aren't good answers. Just choices you have to live with. Before Kira could respond, alarms erupted across the station. Red alert, Sisko's voice boomed over the comm system. All hands to battle stations. We have multiple vessels decloaking around the station. Cardassian signatures. They're powering weapons. Fury and Kira rushed to Ops, arriving to find the view screen showing a nightmare scenario. 7 Cardassian warships, all bearing insignia Fury didn't recognize, surrounding Deep Space Nine in attack formation. They're hailing us, Dax reported. On screen, Sisko commanded. The view screen shifted to show a Cardassian woman, older, with the bearing of someone who'd spent decades in military intelligence. Her eyes were cold, calculating, and utterly devoid of mercy. I am Corbin in Tech, former operative of the Obsidian Order. You have something that belongs to my organization. Return the archive data cores immediately, or we will destroy your station and everyone aboard. The Obsidian Order is finished, Sisko said. You're war criminals operating rogue vessels. Surrender now, or face the consequences. In Tech's smile was chilling. You have 10 minutes to comply, Commander Sisko. After that, we will demonstrate just how unfinished the Obsidian Order truly is. The transmission ended. Shields up, Sisko ordered. Charge weapons. Dax, get me a tactical analysis. Worf, prepare defensive strategies. O'Brien, how long until the Defiant can launch? 8 minutes, O'Brien reported. But Commander, 7 Cardassian warships against the station and 1 escort vessel, those aren't favorable odds. Fury stepped forward. Then we change the odds. The Obsidian Order wants those archives desperately enough to risk open conflict with the Federation. That desperation is a weakness we can exploit. How? Sisko demanded. Fury's mind raced through tactical scenarios, drawing on decades of experience manipulating desperate enemies. We give them what they want. But on our terms. Explain. We tell Intech we're willing to negotiate the return of the archives. Buy time for reinforcements to arrive while making her think she's winning. Meanwhile, we use the data cores as leverage, threaten to transmit their contents to every government in the Alpha Quadrant unless she stands down. That's a bluff, Kira said. We haven't even reviewed all the files yet. Doesn't matter. Intech doesn't know that. All she knows is those archives contain information that could destroy what's left of her organization. She'll be forced to negotiate rather than risk exposure. Sisko considered this, weighing options against rapidly decreasing time. Do it. Dax, prepare a data transmission to make it look like we're uploading the archive contents. Don't actually transmit anything, just create the appearance. Kira, contact Starfleet Command and the Bajoran militia. The Cardassian fleet held position around Deep Space Nine, weapons charged but not firing, a calculated display of force designed to intimidate without triggering immediate Federation retaliation. On the view screen, Corbin and Tech waited with the patience of a professional intelligence operative who'd spent decades mastering the art of psychological manipulation. Fury stood beside Sisko in Ops, watching the tactical display with the cold assessment of someone who'd faced down worse odds and survived. 7 Cardassian warships. Obsolete by current military standards but still formidable against a stationary target like DS-9. The station's shields could hold for maybe 20 minutes of sustained bombardment. The Defiant could take down 2, maybe 3 vessels before being overwhelmed. Not good odds. But not impossible either. Commander in Tech, Cisco said, his voice carrying the authority of someone who'd commanded in war and understood when to fight and when to negotiate. You're asking me to hand over evidence of war crimes committed by the Obsidian Order during the occupation of Bajorans. That's not going to happen. Then you condemn everyone aboard your station to death, Intech replied calmly. A regrettable but necessary sacrifice. Is it? Fury stepped forward, making himself visible on the view screen. Because from where I'm standing, Commander, you're the one making sacrifices. You've brought 7 ships, old Gaylor-class cruisers that were probably mothballed after the Dominion War. You've recruited crews from Cardassian refugees and former military personnel who have nothing left to lose. And you're willing to start a shooting war with the Federation for data cores that contain information about atrocities committed decades ago. Intech's eyes narrowed, studying Fury. And who are you? Nick Fury. Strategic consultant. Former intelligence director. Someone who recognizes desperation when I see it. Fury moved closer to the view screen, his single eye boring into Intech's. Here's what I know about you, Commander. The Obsidian Order was destroyed trying to eliminate the Founders. Thousands of your best operatives died. Your organization's leadership was decimated. Your funding dried up. Your political protection evaporated. Everything you spent your career building collapsed in a matter of days. Ancient history, Intech said dismissively, but Fury caught the micro-expression, a tightening around her eyes that suggested he'd struck a nerve. Not ancient. Ongoing. You've spent the last few years trying to rebuild from nothing, scraping together resources, recruiting survivors, attempting to restore what was lost. And you almost succeeded. You established a network of informants, secured black market funding, even acquired a small fleet. But you need one more thing to complete your resurrection: legitimacy. Continue, Intech said, her voice carefully neutral. Those archive data cores don't just contain evidence of war crimes. They contain the Obsidian Order's entire operational history during the Bajoran occupation. Names of agents, recruitment methodologies, successful operations, institutional knowledge that took decades to develop. You need that information to prove to potential recruits and financial backers that the Obsidian Order can be rebuilt into something effective. Without those archives, you're just another group of former spies pretending to be relevant. Intech was silent for a long moment. Then, you understand intelligence work, Mr. Fury. Which means you understand why I can't allow those archives to fall into Federation hands. If they're analyzed and distributed, every surviving Obsidian Order operative will be identified and hunted. Our network collapses permanently. We become extinct. So we have a stalemate, Cisco observed. You can't risk us possessing the archives. We can't ethically hand them over to war criminals. And neither of us wants to start a shooting war that ends with massive casualties on both sides. That's not a stalemate, Commander, Intech said. That's a countdown. In 7 minutes, my fleet opens fire. Your shields will fail. Your station will be destroyed. And in the wreckage, my operatives will retrieve the data cores. You die. I win. You think you win, Fury corrected. But you're missing a critical variable. Dax, show her. Dax activated a tactical subroutine. On Intech's view screen, data began scrolling, thousands of files being uploaded to Federation communication networks, broadcast on open channels throughout the Alpha Quadrant. We started transmitting the archive contents 3 minutes ago, Fury lied smoothly. Every file, every name, every operational detail. Right now, governments across known space are receiving documentation of Obsidian Order activities during the Bajoran occupation. In 5 minutes, that information will be public domain. Your network won't just collapse, it'll be systematically dismantled by every intelligence service in the quadrant. Intech's composure cracked. You're bluffing. You haven't had time to decrypt and transmit that volume of data. Haven't I? Fury's smile was cold. I spent decades running an organization that monitored global threats. I know exactly how long it takes to crack Cardassian encryption and distribute intelligence files through multiple channels. And I've had very motivated people working on those archives since we discovered them. Shut down the transmission, Intech demanded. Now. Or I destroy your station immediately. Destroy us, and the transmission continues automatically, Sisko said. We've programmed failsafe protocols. The only way to stop the data distribution is to stand down your weapons and negotiate in good faith. Fury watched Intech's face carefully, reading the micro-expressions of someone calculating odds and finding them unacceptable. She was trapped: destroy DS9 and guarantee her organization's exposure, or negotiate and potentially salvage something from the situation. What are your terms? Intech asked finally. You withdraw your fleet immediately, Sisko said. The archive data cores remain in Federation custody, to be turned over to the Bajoran Provisional Government for review and disposition. In exchange, we delay public release of the files for 72 hours, giving your operatives time to evacuate from positions where they might be captured. That's not a negotiation. That's surrender. No, Fury said. Surrender would be us destroying your fleet and then distributing the archives anyway. This is you accepting that you've lost this particular engagement and choosing to survive for future operations. That's what good intelligence operatives do, they know when to cut their losses and preserve their assets. Intech's hands clenched on her command chair's armrests. For a moment, Fury thought she might order the attack anyway. Pride and desperation sometimes overrode tactical logic. Then she spoke. I want confirmation that the transmission will be halted. Dax. Sisko prompted. Dax manipulated her console. Transmission suspended. Data upload at 37%. All files remain in Federation custody. You have 1 hour to withdraw beyond Bajoran space, Sisko said. After that, we consider your presence an act of war and respond accordingly. Intech's expression was venomous. This isn't over, Commander Sisko. The Obsidian Order has survived for centuries by adapting to changing circumstances. We will adapt to this as well. I'm sure you will, Sisko replied. But you'll do it somewhere else. The transmission ended. The Cardassian fleet held position for another tense 30 seconds, long enough to demonstrate they were leaving by choice, not compulsion, then broke formation and jumped to warp. The moment they disappeared from sensors, Ops erupted in relieved conversation. Stand down red alert, Sisko ordered. Maintain yellow alert for the next 6 hours in case they decide to return. Dax, how close did we actually get to transmitting those files? We didn't, Dax admitted. The entire transmission was a simulation. Very convincing, but completely fake. Intech never had any real chance of stopping it because it wasn't actually happening. Kira turned to Fury. You were bluffing. The entire time, you were bluffing. I was selling a story Intech wanted to believe, Fury corrected. She was desperate enough to rebuild the Obsidian Order that she took enormous risks to retrieve those archives. That same desperation made her vulnerable to the suggestion that her worst-case scenario, total exposure, was already happening. Give people what they fear most, and they'll do almost anything to make it stop. That was incredibly dangerous, Odo said. If Intech had called your bluff. She wouldn't, Fury interrupted. Because calling a bluff when the stakes are existential is irrational. Intelligence operatives are many things, but they're rarely irrational. She had to assume I was telling the truth because the alternative was unacceptable. Sisko sat in his command chair, exhaling slowly. Mr. Fury, you just prevented what could have been a major interstellar incident through nothing but psychological manipulation and tactical deception. That's either brilliant or reckless. I haven't decided which. Usually both, Fury said. In my experience, the line between brilliant and reckless is mostly determined by whether you survive long enough to be judged. What do we do with the archives? Kira asked. Intech's fleet is gone, but the question remains. Do we preserve those files or destroy them? Cisco stood and moved to the window overlooking Bajorans. The planet hung in space like a jewel, beautiful, scarred, and slowly healing from decades of trauma. We turn them over to the Bajoran Provisional Government as promised, Cisco said quietly. What they choose to do with that information is their decision. Not ours. Not the Federation's. Buyers. They'll probably destroy most of it, Dax observed. Keep some files for historical record and war crimes prosecution, but erase the names of collaborators and informants. Protect people who were forced into impossible situations. Good, Kira said firmly. Some truths cause more harm than healing. My people have suffered enough. Fury didn't disagree, but he felt the familiar weight of intelligence work settling on his shoulders. Information destroyed was leverage lost, opportunities foreclosed, truths buried that might matter someday. But he also understood that not every truth needed to be told. Sometimes mercy meant letting the past stay buried. Commander, O'Brien's voice crackled over the comm, we're receiving a priority transmission from Starfleet Command. Admiral Ross wants to speak with you immediately. He's not happy. Cisco and Fury exchanged glances. This should be interesting, Cisco muttered. Fury, you're with me. If I'm getting reprimanded for unauthorized negotiations with Cardassian war criminals, you're sharing the experience. Admiral Ross appeared on the view screen in Cisco's office, his expression thunderous. Commander Cisco, would you care to explain why I just received reports that Deep Space Nine was surrounded by Cardassian warships, engaged in unauthorized negotiations, and nearly started an interstellar incident, all without informing Starfleet Command until after the situation was resolved? Sir, events moved rapidly, Cisco began. We didn't have time to. You had time to recruit a civilian consultant with no Starfleet authority to conduct diplomatic negotiations, Ross interrupted, his eyes shifting to Fury. Mr. Fury, your activities aboard DS-9 have been brought to my attention. Stopping Section 31's bioweapons deployment. Intervening in Romulan diplomatic matters. And now conducting psychological operations against Cardassian intelligence operatives. You're either the most valuable asset we've acquired in months or the most dangerous wild card in the quadrant. Probably both, Admiral, Fury said calmly. Seems to be my specialty. Ross's expression softened slightly, not quite approval, but grudging respect. The Federation Council is still debating what to do about Section 31. Your intervention prevented a genocide, but it also exposed classified programs and strained our intelligence capabilities. There are admirals who want you arrested. Others who want you recruited. And a few who just want you to disappear quietly. What do you want, Admiral? Cisco asked. Ross was quiet for a moment, clearly weighing his words carefully. I want to end this war without compromising who we are as a civilization. I want victory that doesn't require becoming monsters. And if that means working with someone who operates outside our chain of command but shares our values, I can accept that. He looked directly at Fury. Mr. Fury, I'm offering you a position as special consultant to Starfleet intelligence. No rank, no official authority, but access to resources and operational latitude. You'll work with Commander Cisco, providing strategic analysis and unconventional approaches to problems our standard protocols can't solve. And if I refuse? Fury asked. Then you remain a civilian aboard DS-9 with no official capacity, constantly under scrutiny from Starfleet security and Section 31 remnants who consider you a threat. Ross's smile was thin. Your choice. Fury considered. Official sanction meant oversight, limitations, and bureaucratic constraints he'd spent his career avoiding. But it also meant resources, authority, and the ability to actually affect outcomes in this universe he was now trapped in. I accept, Fury said. On one condition, I report to Commander Sisko, not Starfleet Command. If I'm going to be someone's consultant, I want it to be someone I trust. Ross looked at Sisko. Commander? I can work with that, Admiral, Sisko said. Mr. Fury has proven his value multiple times. I'd rather have him working with us than operating independently. Agreed. I'll transmit the official authorization within the hour. Sisko, Fury, don't make me regret this decision. Ross's expression hardened. The Dominion War continues to escalate. We're losing ground in multiple sectors. The Breen have entered the conflict on the Dominion side. And there are rumors of new Dominion weapons that could change the strategic balance. We need every advantage we can get. If you can provide that advantage while keeping your methods within acceptable boundaries, I'll support you. Cross too many lines, and I'll shut you down personally. Understood? Understood, Admiral, Sisko and Fury replied simultaneously. Ross ended the transmission. Sisko turned to Fury. Congratulations. You're now officially part of Starfleet's strategic apparatus. How does it feel? Like I just agreed to be institutionalized again, Fury said dryly. But this time, maybe I can do it right. Learn from past mistakes. Use intelligence gathering to protect people instead of controlling them. That's an optimistic assessment. Yeah, well, the prophets told me I'd be tested. Might as well face those tests with some kind of official backing. Fury moved to the window, looking out at the wormhole. Commander, I spent decades running S.H.I.E.L.D., convinced I was making the world safer. In reality, I was building an organization that became the very threat it was supposed to prevent. I don't want to repeat that mistake here. Then don't, Sisko said simply. You have something now you didn't have before, people who'll tell you when you're wrong. Kira, Dax, Odo, Worf, they won't hesitate to call out questionable decisions. Neither will I. You're not alone anymore, Fury. That's the difference. Fury was quiet, processing this. He'd spent so long operating in isolation, trusting no one fully, that the concept of genuine collaboration felt almost alien. Thank you, Commander. Benjamin, Sisko corrected. If we're going to work together, we're colleagues. Not superior and subordinate. Benjamin, then. Fury extended his hand. Sisko shook it, a gesture of partnership rather than authority. As Fury left the office, he found Dax waiting in the corridor. I heard about your new position, she said. Congratulations. Or condolences. I'm not sure which is more appropriate. Bit of both, Fury admitted. Dax, can I ask you something? The prophets. When they spoke to me in the wormhole, they said my presence here would change the pattern. That my choices would have consequences they couldn't predict. What does that mean? Dax's expression grew thoughtful. The prophets experience all of time simultaneously. They see past, present, and future as a unified whole. When they say they can't predict something, it means you represent a genuine variable, something that doesn't fit their understanding of causality. So I'm an anomaly. You're a person with free will in a universe where even gods can't completely predict outcomes. That's not a burden, Nick. It's the most human thing there is, the ability to surprise everyone, including yourself, with the choices you make. Fury smiled, a genuine smile, not the calculated expressions he used for tactical advantage. I've been called a lot of things in my career. Spy. Director. Manipulator. Bastard. But I've never been called optimistic. You people are a bad influence. The best kind of influence, Dax replied. That night, Fury stood alone on the promenade, watching ships dock and depart, observing the flow of diverse species through DS9's corridors. Humans, Bajorans, Klingon, Ferengi, Vulcans, dozens of species coexisting with varying degrees of harmony. In his universe, diversity meant conflict managed through uneasy tolerance. Here, it meant something different. Genuine cooperation built on the belief that differences strengthened rather than weakened civilization. He'd been skeptical of that philosophy when he first arrived. It seemed naive, impractical, the kind of idealism that collapsed under pressure. But he'd seen it work. He'd watched Cisco negotiate with Romulans and Cardassians, finding common ground where none seemed possible. He'd seen Kira's passion tempered by Odo's pragmatism, creating balanced solutions. He'd observed Dax's centuries of wisdom guiding younger officers through impossible choices. Maybe idealism wasn't weakness. Maybe it was just courage wearing a different face. His comm badge chirped. Quark to Fury. If you're done being philosophical, I have a holosuit reserved for you. Figured you might enjoy a program of old Earth, your Earth, circa your native time period. Help you feel less homesick. Fury smiled. Thanks, Quark. What's the program? Mid-20th century New York. Spy thriller aesthetic. Thought you might appreciate the nostalgia. I'll be there in 5 minutes. As Fury walked toward Quark's, he passed by the Bajoran temple. The space where he'd almost died stopping Section 31's bioweapons now glowed softly with candlelight, Bajoran faithful offering prayers to the prophets. He paused, looking inside. A Bajoran Videk, Porta, if Fury remembered correctly, noticed him and approached. Mr. Fury. It's rare to see non-Bajorans visiting the temple. Are you seeking guidance from the prophets? I think they've already given me all the guidance I can handle, Fury said. But I wanted to see the place where everything changed. Where I stopped being a visitor to this universe and became part of it. The prophets work in mysterious ways, Porta said with gentle wisdom. Perhaps they brought you here not because this universe needed you, but because you needed this universe. A chance to be someone other than who you were. Fury considered this. Maybe. I'm still figuring out who that someone is. Then you're on the right path. Only those who've lost themselves can truly find themselves again. Porta gestured to the temple. You're always welcome here, Mr. Fury. Whether you believe in the prophets or not. Thank you, Videk. As Fury continued toward Quark's, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years, possibility. Not the grim certainty of outcomes he'd spent his career calculating, but genuine openness to whatever came next. Nick Fury had crossed dimensional boundaries, stopped genocides, negotiated with gods, and earned the trust of people he'd initially viewed with suspicion. And somehow, despite everything, despite the war, the loss of his home universe, the impossible challenges ahead, he felt something approaching hope. The Dominion War would continue. Section 31 would regroup. New threats would emerge. But for the first time since the Tesseract tore him from his reality, Nick Fury wasn't facing those challenges alone. He had allies. Purpose. A place in a universe that was strange and beautiful and terrifying and worth fighting for. He entered Quark's holosuit, the program activating to show a perfect recreation of 1960s New York, his New York, from his universe. Rain-slicked streets. Jazz music drifting from basement clubs. The comfortable paranoia of the Cold War era. Home. Or at least, a memory of it. Fury stood in the holographic rain, watching phantom New Yorkers hurry past, and made himself a promise. Whatever happened next. Whatever tests the prophets mentioned, whatever crises emerged, he would face them as something more than the cynical spy he'd been. He would face them as someone who'd learned that trust, collaboration, and even idealism could be weapons as powerful as any intelligence network. Nicholas Joseph Fury, dimensional refugee, Starfleet consultant, and possibly the galaxy's most unlikely optimist. The universe had no idea what it was in for. And honestly, neither did he. But that was okay. Some of the best operations started with improvisation. 6 months after Nick Fury emerged from the Bajoran wormhole, Deep Space Nine had become something unexpected: home. Not the home he'd lost, that universe, that Earth. Those people were gone forever, separated by dimensional barriers even the prophets couldn't bridge. But home nonetheless. A place where his particular skills mattered, where his experience served purposes larger than institutional preservation, where the mistakes of his past informed better choices in his present. The Dominion War ground on, brutal and unforgiving. Casualties mounted on all sides. Territory changed hands with each offensive. But small victories accumulated, battles won through intelligence rather than firepower, diplomatic solutions that prevented escalation, strategic insights that saved lives without compromising principles. Fury's contributions were significant but never singular. He worked alongside Cisco's command staff, offering perspectives shaped by decades of covert operations while learning from people whose idealism he'd once dismissed as naivete. Kira taught him that passion and pragmatism weren't opposites. Dax showed him that wisdom came from accepting complexity rather than imposing simplicity. Odo demonstrated that maintaining order didn't require sacrificing justice. Worf proved that honor and tactical excellence could coexist. And Cisco, commander, captain, emissary, showed Fury what leadership looked like when it served people rather than institutions. Section 31 survived the exposure of their bioweapons program, exactly as Sloan had predicted. Operatives were identified, prosecuted, reassigned. Public hearings condemned their methods. Politicians promised reform. And quietly, inevitably, new covert operations emerged under different names, pursuing similar objectives with slightly modified justifications. The war demanded pragmatism. Desperation created opportunities for those willing to operate in shadows. But Section 31 no longer operated with impunity. Their activities faced scrutiny. Their recruitment became more difficult. And they knew that somewhere on Deep Space Nine, a former intelligence director was watching, waiting for them to cross lines he wouldn't allow. It wasn't victory. But it was accountability. And in Fury's experience, accountability was the foundation of everything else that mattered. The Obsidian Order's remnants scattered after their failed attempt to retrieve the archives. Some operatives disappeared into Cardassian refugee populations, abandoning intelligence work for civilian lives. Others joined criminal organizations, selling skills developed through decades of espionage. A few, the true believers like Corbin in tech, continued their futile efforts to rebuild an organization whose time had passed. The archive data cores were turned over to the Bajoran Provisional Government as promised. After months of careful review, they made their decision. Preserve evidence of war crimes and mass grave locations to serve justice and provide closure. Destroy the names of collaborators and informants who'd acted under duress. Seal the remaining files for 50 years, allowing wounds to heal before history was fully documented. It wasn't the decision Fury would have made. He believed in preserving all information, even uncomfortable truths. But it wasn't his decision to make. Bajorans deserved the right to determine how their trauma was remembered and reconciled. Some truths caused more harm than healing. That was a lesson worth learning. On this particular evening, Fury stood in ops during Gamma Shift, the quiet hours when skeleton crews maintained station operations and the promenade's usual chaos subsided into contemplative silence. Bajorans hung in the view screen, its surface illuminated by city lights that grew brighter each month as the planet continued its recovery from occupation. "Can't sleep." Odo's voice came from behind him. The changeling approached with his characteristic silent grace, taking position beside Fury at the window. "Sleep's overrated," Fury replied. "Besides, in my experience, the most important events happen during the hours when everyone else is sleeping." A paranoid perspective. A cautious perspective. There's a difference. Odo was quiet for a moment, then, "You've changed since you arrived. When we first met, you evaluated everyone as potential threats or assets. Now you evaluate them as colleagues. That's progress." Or I've gotten better at hiding my paranoia, Fury said with a slight smile. Don't mistake adaptation for transformation, Constable. I'm still the same person who ran a covert intelligence organization for decades. I've just learned to channel those instincts differently. That's all any of us can do, Odo observed. Channel our nature toward constructive purposes rather than destructive ones. I'm a changeling. My people created the Dominion, engineered slave species, and pursued conquest across the Gamma Quadrant. But I chose a different path. Justice instead of domination. Order that serves people rather than controlling them. You think I've found my different path? I think you're searching for it. That's more than most people attempt. Fury considered this. The prophets had told him his presence would change the pattern, that his choices would have consequences they couldn't predict. 6 months later, he still didn't understand what that meant. But maybe that was the point, not to know the outcome, but to make choices worthy of whatever outcome emerged. His comm badge chirped. Dax to Fury. We're receiving coded transmissions from Starfleet intelligence. They're requesting your analysis on Breen military capabilities. Apparently, your assessment of their tactical doctrine was accurate enough that Admiral Ross wants your input on defensive strategies. Tell them I'll have a preliminary report within 6 hours, Fury replied. And Dax, thank you. For everything. Everything. Her voice carried curiosity and warmth. That's vague even for you. For treating me like a person instead of a resource. For trusting me when you had no reason to. For showing me that intelligence work can serve people without controlling them. Fury paused, unusual emotion creeping into his voice. I spent decades believing that trust was weakness and collaboration was vulnerability. You've proven me wrong. That's worth acknowledging. You're welcome, Nick. Though I suspect you're giving us too much credit. You made the choice to trust. We just provided opportunities. After the transmission ended, Fury and Odo stood together in companionable silence, watching Bajorans turn slowly beneath them. What happens when the war ends? Odo asked eventually. Assuming we survive, assuming the Federation prevails, what then? You return to Earth. Pursue civilian life. Continue intelligence work. I don't know, Fury admitted. I've spent so long defining myself by conflict that I'm not sure who I am without it. But maybe that's okay. Maybe not knowing is better than the certainty I used to cling to. A philosophical observation from a career spy. The universe works in mysterious ways. Tell me about it. Above them, the wormhole opened, its blue and white vortex briefly illuminating the sector as a merchant vessel transited from the Gamma Quadrant. Fury watched the phenomenon with the same awe he'd felt 6 months ago, during his first impossible journey through dimensional barriers. The prophets existed within that vortex, experiencing all of time simultaneously, observing linear beings with alien curiosity and occasional intervention. They'd saved his life, given him purpose, and warned that his choices mattered in ways he couldn't comprehend. He still didn't understand them. Probably never would. But he'd learned something valuable. You didn't need to understand everything to make meaningful choices. Sometimes faith, not in gods, but in people, principles, and the possibility of being better than your worst moments, was enough. Nicholas Joseph Fury had crossed universes, stopped genocides, negotiated with gods, and found unexpected allies in the strangest of circumstances. He'd lost everything familiar and gained something more valuable, the chance to be someone other than who he'd been. The Dominion War would continue. New threats would emerge. Section 31 would scheme. The Obsidian Order's remnants would plot. Countless dangers lurked in the spaces between stars, waiting to test the Federation's principles and Fury's commitment to using his skills for protection rather than control. But for the first time in 30 years, Nick Fury wasn't facing those challenges alone. He had people he trusted. A purpose worth pursuing. And the hard-won knowledge that even someone as damaged and cynical as himself could learn, grow, and choose differently. The pattern the prophets mentioned was still unfolding. His role within it remained unclear. But that uncertainty no longer frightened him. It meant possibility. Choice. Freedom from the deterministic thinking that had defined his previous life. He smiled, a genuine expression that would have shocked the Nick Fury who first emerged from the wormhole, suspicious and isolated. "Come on, Constable," Fury said, turning from the window. "Gamma shift is boring. Let's go to Quarks. I'll buy you a drink and we can debate the relative merits of surveillance versus privacy in wartime security protocols. That's your idea of entertainment? Old habits die hard." As they walked toward the turbolift, the station hummed with quiet activity, engineers maintaining systems, medical staff preparing for potential casualties, operations personnel monitoring sensors. Thousands of individuals working together toward shared purposes, each contributing to something larger than themselves. That was the Federation's real strength, Fury realized. Not superior technology or military might, but genuine collaboration built on trust and mutual respect. It was the kind of strength S.H.I.E.L.D. had pretended to possess but never truly achieved. The kind of strength worth fighting for. The lift doors opened. Fury stepped inside, ready for whatever came next. The war continued. The universe remained dangerous. Tomorrow would bring new crises, impossible choices, and tests of character that might break anyone less committed to being better than their past. But Nick Fury, dimensional refugee, Starfleet consultant, and reformed cynical bastard, had learned something invaluable during his 6 months in this strange new universe. Sometimes the hardest battles weren't against external enemies. They were against the parts of yourself that wanted to solve every problem through control, manipulation, and the comfortable certainty that ends justified means. Winning those battles didn't guarantee victory in war. But it guaranteed something more important, remaining the kind of person worth saving civilization for in the first place. And in a universe where even gods couldn't predict outcomes, that was enough. The turbolift descended toward the promenade, carrying Nick Fury toward an uncertain future he was finally ready to face. Not because he had all the answers, but because he'd learned to trust the people around him to help find those answers together. That was the real difference between the Nick Fury who'd run S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Nick Fury who now served alongside Deep Space Nine's crew. He'd finally learned that trust wasn't weakness. It was the strongest foundation anyone could build on. And maybe, just maybe, that was why the prophets had brought him here. Not to save this universe, but to save himself.